Hello, Fantasy. Back reporting live from Sherwood Forest. It is I, Cullen, one half of the host of Not My Fantasy, the podcast where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm here podcasting for Hannah's life as they've transferred her from Nottingham to Rottingham. Uh, yeah, we're trying to get her out of here. And to help, I enlisted our dear friends, the fairy tellers, Geoff and Katrina.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to be back.
And after three failed recording attempts, we're back here again to finally break Hannah out of jail.
Yes, absolutely. It's like we also were being held hostage against our will.
Yeah, by the forces of the universe, like disease and power outages and
Yeah.
herbal tea witches.
Herbal tea witches that trapped me in their shop.
Your own latrine that you were dealing with. Because we're talking about the 1993 Mel Brooks classic, Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yes. I'm super excited to be talking. A comedy.
A comedy, yeah. I mean, I guess the last time you were on was also is Snow White a comedy?
I feel like we viewed it as
We
such.
viewed it as we
There were a
yeah.
lot of things that were funny intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah, Gal Gadot's performance will stay with me for many reasons. Um
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say we offended Jeff so much by shit talking Snow White. He's like, I gotta go. I can't abide by this. Uh So yeah, we're talking about the Men in Tights, this is actually my first time seeing this movie.
This was my second time seeing this movie.
I've probably seen it dozens of times, but this was my first time in like 20 years seeing this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to be the first time now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're interested in my history of the one time that I watched this movie before now,
Yes.
it was like newly in college. I think I had started dating like this guy that I had worked a summer job with, and he was a couple years old. He was probably like 5 years older than me, and had this very patriarchal view of like how he needed to like teach me about the world now that I was like out of
Uh
the house, like living in an apartment. He was like, oh, I need to show you all the, and he was obsessed with like Mel Brooks movies. And so he was like, you've got to watch this movie. It is so funny. There were several different movies that he like wanted to show me. It was like the trial of my life. Uh, but don't worry, definitely broke up with this guy. But he was like, you have to see this. It's so funny. And I remember like watching and being like, okay, there's like some like funny parts, but I didn't really get it. And it wasn't until like much later that I realized like, oh, Star Wars is to Spaceballs as uh Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is to Men in Tights. And I had not seen Prince of Thieves. And
yeah.
so I was like, oh, well, maybe a lot of the humor like went over my head. And then like fast forward 17, 18 years and I'm like watching it again and I'm like, I wonder if he still likes this movie.
Now, Jeff, what's your relationship with Robin Hood Men in Tights?
I really liked this movie when I was a kid, probably like, less than, or probably around 10 years old. Um, and one of the reasons why I like this movie so much was I actually really was a huge fan of, I think I had like a mini obsession with Robin Hood, honestly, as a little bit like starting with the Disney movie, the animated
Yeah.
Disney movie. But then I also really liked the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves movie. And then, so yeah, then this was like a natural extension of that. And also like my family and just like me, like as a kid too, were really into comedies, especially like Mel Brooks comedies. Spaceballs
Yeah.
was another one that I really liked as a kid because I was a huge Star Wars fan too as a kid. Um, so I watched it all the time and I thought it was hilarious. And like looking back, I'm like, I can understand how I thought it was really funny as like a 10-year-old. And there's still some really funny parts that hold up, but there's a lot that I don't think does hold up as much. And I do think
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, there's you can definitely feel the Mel Brooksness of it in the ways that I love Mel Brooks. So yeah, I mean it was
Yeah.
nice to watch it again, but will I watch it again in another 20 years? We'll see.
That's it. When I started playing it my husband, I was like, "Have you seen this?" And he's like, "I saw it a million years ago. I didn't think it was funny. Like, I did not like it." And I was like, "Yeah, but I mean, you didn't think like Princess Bride was funny." And
Oh,
yeah, so I was like, I think sometimes comedy just like goes past you. And so like maybe that's why like you didn't like it, but sit with me while we watch it. And like literally like 5 minutes into the movie, I went, I hope some of this aged well.
There,
yeah.
And I was like, woof.
Comedy does age just more than other genres. I mean,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. I think sometimes we get this debate of or this discussion of, oh, they wouldn't have made this today or blah blah.
Mhm.
And it
Well,
didn't
of course, yeah.
even, yeah, of course. But it didn't even like bother me on a, I'm trying to think of a word because woke is meaningless. On like a social justicey level. It wasn't like, oh,
Uh-huh.
this is
Yeah.
so outdated. Like some of it was, but it was more just
Yeah.
like,
It just
oh, it's just
wasn't
like this
as
isn't the
funny. Yeah.
style of humor that we have now. Like
Yeah.
it didn't offend my
Yeah.
sensibilities. It
Yeah.
just wasn't like how we joke around now. But I do
Yeah.
remember in college watching Blazing Saddles and thinking
Mm.
that was really like funny while also being very like poignant in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I was thinking about that too. Like how some of the counter intuitively, some of the Mel Brooks movies that hold up the best are the older ones, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Um, and that was
Which,
like a lot of what I thought of with this too. Is like there's so it's tough with like parody comedy too. I think is one
yeah.
of the big things. Like, and they parodied it on. They based so much of it off of what you're going to go into this. I know, but like there's lots of Prince of Thieves references and things like that. And it's like that movie
Yeah.
came out like 2 years before this movie did. And it's like who knows how long Prince of Thieves was going to kind of last in people's consciousness to be able to carry through. Like
Yeah.
I know that was an
Yeah.
issue that came up for Katrina. So
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, like, speaking of like it being like a parody and parodies like holding up, a lot of the humor rests on the points that they were trying to highlight the issues of something else. And so when it's like, oh, this is like this might be offensive to this group of people, like if we're looking at it from like the woke is
yeah.
meaningless, but yes, from like that point of view, it's like they were trying to, by using parody, they made those jokes to highlight that in the other thing they did that, and
Yeah.
they're saying, don't we think that that is weird? Don't we
Yeah.
think that that is wrong? And especially, I'm sure we'll get into it when it comes to like one race, obviously,
Yeah.
and then also like feminism,
Yeah.
like joking about like oh, the whole point of this character in this movie is like her sexuality, like her body, and it was like yeah, because in a parody, what they were trying to point out was how that was going on in Prince of Thieves, and you were
Yeah.
fine with it. But if we draw it out to this like logical like parody like conclusion, you can see how messed up it is. So when you're watching a parody going, that's messed up, they're like, yeah, that was the point that we were making back then.
Yeah, that is especially Mel Brooks comedy, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of people who like it but don't quite get it, like they like that it's like, oh, this is I like the race and like the racism or the way they just say those words and then like, but he's pointing out the issues. He's using parody to highlight these issues, but I think with Robin Hood Men in Tights being so attached mainly to Prince of Thieves, I think that kind of dates it. I mean, I was also a kid who liked Robin Hood. I had these little army men that were Robin Hood army men. And I liked the Errol Flynn version a lot. And I knew we had the Disney version taped off the Disney Channel. And I remember seeing Prince of Thieves from like the library or something and being like, oh, this movie's great. And I mostly liked it when I rewatched it for this. Um, I particularly Alan Rickman as the sheriff is really good. So it's I think this parody we'll get there, but there's things that it parodies that I'm like, is that from what you're parodying? You know, specifically with Marion, I have big
Mm.
thoughts. But this movie directed by Kevin Reynolds, Screenplay by Pete Dinsham and John Watson, with Carrie Elwes as Robin Hood, Richard Lewis as Prince John, Roger Rees as Sheriff of Rottingham, Amy Asbeck as Maid Marian, Dave Chappelle as a Chew, son of a sneeze, uh, Mark Blankfield as
High
Blinken.
classy comedy. Like just
Yeah,
like, oh, top left stuff.
highbrow. Yeah. Uh, Eric Allen Kramer as Little John, Matthew Porretta as Will Scarlett O'Hara, Isaac Hayes as a Sneeze, Tracy Ullman as Latrine, Patrick Stewart as King Richard, and then we got Dom DeLuise as Don Giovanni, and you big cast, big cast. Mel Brooks himself plays Rabbi Tuckman. Um, this movie's Friar Tuck. And it had a budget of 20 million and a box office of 72 million. So mixed reviews, but people liked it. It's sold very well on DVD. In my mind, this is the origin point of Shrek.
Mm.
I think like a lot of the jokes in Shrek like build off of this, like from Marion and the Bird to the all of Prince John's whole deal. Like that's proto Lord Farquaad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Especially
totally see
like
that. I've never thought of that before, but
when he was in the bathtub, I'm sure we'll get into
Yeah.
when he was in the bathtub, I was like, Lord Farquaad. That's what this reminds me of right now is Lord Farquaad. And I was like, I wonder if that's where Shrek like kind of got his whole deal, his whole like aesthetic. And but it was just that moment in the like bathtub where I was like, wait.
Yeah. And there is the musical Robin Hood that he fights in the woods. That's very
Yeah.
Men in Tights. And then in Shrek, she sings with the bird and it blows up.
Blows up. Yeah.
And this, the bird just poops on her. So it's like the next joke. It's foundational to Shrek. And yeah, Mel Brooks is obviously a comedy legend. Young Frankenstein was a movie I loved as a kid. I remember watching it, my mom being like, don't tell your friends that I let you watch this."
One that now I want to watch is The Producers. Like I have not seen that in a really long time, and I'm like, I remember really liking The Producers. I'm like, I should watch that again.
Yeah, there's some great commentary on the producers, and people were contrasting it with Cabaret and Sound of Music and other musicals with like Nazi elements, and the
Yeah.
way that even the song in Cabaret that was written for the Nazis, not actual Nazis sort of like it, but the song, no Nazis would actually like the songs in the producers. Like none of them are bumping
mm,
Springtime for Hitler because it's
Yeah.
making fun of them, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in Cabaret, it's like they're scary and they're like, ooh, I like that I'm scary, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, that's in a video essay I saw someday and it's stuck in my brain and I don't remember which one.
Nice.
Uh, so Mel Brooks, just quick backstory on him because he's such a Hollywood legend.
Yeah.
He was a World War II vet, Jewish American, Hollywood legend. He produced the TV show Get Smart, as well as The Producers, 12 Chairs, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Silent Movie, High Anxiety, History of the World Part 1, Spaceballs, Life Stinks, Robin Hood Men in Tights, Dracula Dead and Loving It, and recently History of the World Part 2. So quite
Yeah.
a lot of parodies and a lot of comedy films happening.
Yeah.
And he's such a like distinctive style and sense of humor.
Yeah.
He's a big part of, I don't know, just like comedy, like the history of comedy,
Yeah.
specifically like Jewish comedy.
Yeah. That's one thing that we kind of mentioned with like the style of this movie and it being like very Mel Brooks. I'm but also like dated that there's something that's almost like a little hokey now like watching that comedy and
Yeah.
being like, "Oh, we do it different." They just announced that they're going to be making Spaceballs 2 and
Mhm.
like
Mm.
Josh Gad it sounds like has written like the script for it or something like and I'm so interested to know how like what that comedy style is going to look like if it will be like very Mel Brooks style if it's going to be like
Mm.
I don't like because the two are going to be very different if it's like Spaceballs and then Spaceballs 2 but it's like
Yeah.
jumps forward comedy style by like 20 something years.
Mhm.
So I'm really interested to see how that project turns out. But
Yeah. Especially with so much of Star Wars, so much Star Wars has happened. So
Yeah.
many, so many Star
yeah,
Wars, so much Star Wars discourse and the Disney of it all. And uh Disney has been parodied so much and they've sort of like ingested and self-parodied so much that I'm like, I think we can stop parodying it. I think
yeah,
it's we've done all the things.
yeah. Because I think
Yeah.
like what's interesting, it's like the parodies that Mel Brooks did, where it's like Blazing Saddles is like parodying like westerns, kind of like as I feel like as a whole. Stop me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
from my
Um,
understanding, yeah.
I believe that like High Anxiety, that's like parodying things that were very like
Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so like at the time when he was making like the parody of Star Wars, it's like I don't think that Mel Brooks knew how insanely more popular or like how long Star Wars was just going to keep being in the zeitgeist over
Yeah.
and over and over, because like with like Prince of Thieves, um that movie, it happened, it was really big for the time, a lot of people have good feelings about it, but it's not like there have been 12 other movies made on top of it, and then
Yeah.
all of these like other like mini series and
Hmm.
theme parks built around it, like not in the same way. And so it is like Men in Tights is like oh, like how much does it hold up compared to something like a Spaceballs? And it's like, well, Spaceballs, because Star Wars is always like omnipresent in our lives, Spaceballs to a little bit is going to be like relevant to more people longer
Yeah.
than something like um
Robin
Men in
Hood.
Tights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
we're
Yeah, I actually had like somewhat of an opposing view of that. Not necessarily that Robin Hood Men in Tights is going to be have more staying power than Spaceballs, like long term or anything. But I was just thinking about like even with one of my favorites, which was Young Frankenstein. Like it is based off of lots of different variations of Frankenstein that have come up until then. Nominally so is Robin Hood Men in Tights with like the Errol
yeah.
Flynn movie way back in the day, but so much of it was so recent with like Prince of Thieves. But Robin Hood is a story that has been told and retold and retold and retold. And it's like, and
Yeah.
since Prince of Thieves came out, how many Robin Hood movies have there been? Like there've been a bunch of them
Yeah.
that have been made
Yeah.
since then as well. So it seems like my instinct would just say that something that has a basis more in something that's like considered like classical, like I don't know, like a Shakespeare or the Robin Hood story
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
Frankenstein story, that's been not like the Star Wars is different because it's kind of like there's a through line, like it's kind of like the same group, the same company, the same property, rather than
Yeah.
different people's reinterpretations of it,
Yeah.
which makes it like a very specific thing. Whereas Robin Hood can be more open, or Frankenstein can be more open to these different interpretations, and there's a lot more material that you can pull from to like reference all the different things. But I would say, like so far you're proving right that I would say Spaceballs probably is probably more well known and thought about today because they're not making Prince of Thieves 2, they're making Spaceballs 2.
Yeah. But
And I think Star Wars is the reason because Star Wars has lived on since then, not like even come back. It's like been alive from then until now.
yeah. No, and along what you were saying, one thing that I was thinking about while watching Men in Tights was the idea that like because the story of Robin Hood is so well known, the bits and parts of like we already think we know what Robin Hood should be, or and like who the main characters are and who should be
Yeah.
in it, that you can really like stretch the um the story in a lot of different ways and it still be recognizable as like a Robin Hood tale, that because people are like, "Oh yes, if it's Robin Hood, I know that there's going to be like these main kind of like things happening where it's like there's a kind of robber bandit who is kind of more on the side of the everyman. He's against a bigger group, whether it's like religious, local authority, or like monarchy. And he might, women are into him, like James Bond. Like
Yeah.
women want him, men love him. They're bandits in the woods. And so if you have like those parts, it's very recognizable always. And so you can kind of do whatever ridiculous stuff you want to do with it.
Yeah, I think kind of that's a perfect kind of segue into Robin Hood and just it's funny because actually later last Sunday when we were supposed to record, I saw a trailer for there's like a new Robin Hood show coming out on some streaming service.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Uh
Nice.
that.
and it's going with the kind of Normans versus Saxons angle that was like very big in the Errol Flynn version.
Yeah.
Um but it's Robin Hood is interesting because I think Prince of Thieves was the last super successful iteration. There have been other iterations since, but I feel like as our culture gets more and more IP driven, I think Robin Hood, everyone's like, okay, he's free, he's public domain, but he's
Yeah.
really fought to maintain his hold against DC and Marvel and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all these other
Yeah.
action properties and Fast and Furious. Like I think he feels very outdated to modern audiences, which I think is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think the way we storytell and process stories, we've really allowed companies to tell us everything. Like Disney kind of starts in colonizing your imagination from such a young age.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And saying like what information is canon.
Yeah.
Like I feel like people have gotten really obsessed with like what's canon and what's like oh that's not canon. And so you have a very like definitive idea of like what Batman has to be and they're like, "Oh, I don't like this Batman because it goes against how Batman was in this canon or something." And I love the idea of Robin Hood being like free of being claimed as somebody's intellectual property. I
Yeah.
love I love that idea of Robin Hood being like, you don't own me, since he's like this like
Yeah, Robin Hood
anti-establishment
specifically. Yeah,
bandit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like
it's
you
very
can't
in character for
own,
him.
yeah, very in
Yeah.
character.
Even Disney hasn't managed to fully define who Robin Hood is
Yeah.
to modern audiences compared to what they've done to Snow White and
Yeah.
Cinderella and the Little Mermaid and these other stories.
Yeah.
Um, because like Robin Hood as a character, kind of like in the research, I had to return all my library books because we took so long to do this series. Mainly me, I took so long to sit with the
Okay, I was like,
series.
Not us continually having to like cancel and move it.
No, it was my summer. But you have kind of a cast of characters, and then the events around them are nebulous, and who they are kind of nebulous. Because you have Robin Hood. Sometimes he's just a yeoman. Sometimes he's just always been outlaw. Sometimes a disgraced noble. He absorbed other heroes that were like outlaw heroes. And he has a buddy, Little John. Sometimes there's a guy called Much the Miller's Son. There's Will Scarlet around, and the minstrel Alan a Dale. And sometimes, okay, there's a Friar Tuck later on, and he has different enemies like the Sheriff of Nottingham and Guy of Gisborne. And he has a girlfriend, Maid Marian, and I say she's like the OG Mary Jane, because her only clear identifier across versions is love interest to Robin Hood.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, is she noble born? Is she a peasant? What is the role of maid? Like, who is
Yeah.
she related to? Is she a princess? Whatever. Like, that changes. And then even Prince John and King Richard as like your royalty, that's a later addition, almost more Hollywood driven aspect of the story, or specifically Sir Walter Scott's Ivanhoe, like really set Robin Hood in the Crusades and had Richard and John as part of it and really solidified that as part of the legend. He wasn't the originator of that, but I think that really,
Stuck it in people's heads that like
yeah,
that was the thing. Yeah.
yeah. Because ever since then, that's Robin Hood is always set in the Crusades.
Yeah.
Um, But did he start in ballads or plays? We spent a lot in our other episodes talking about different Robin Hood ballads, and the history of the legend. And he was incredibly popular, and it wasn't always one people would write down. So we have kind of fragmentary pieces of poems and plays. So we're going to talk about the theatrical aspect
Yes.
of it. We're going to be theater kids today because this
Yes.
this this movie gave me like this would kill live. Like Robin Hood Men in Tights
Oh yeah,
live.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like even the jokes that I'm not laughing at in my living room, I'd be laughing at live.
Yeah.
Um,
It has that feel too of like there are people that know they're being watched being funny. Like so
yes.
it would like it works on stage like with the person like literally being able to like say something and like look out into the audience and like get the reaction from the crowd and like that be like a thing. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so what is the deal with medieval theater? So as Rome became Christian, they're like theater's kind of pagan. So that it went out of fashion. But monasteries, and we love them for it, they love storing knowledge. They love writing things down and storing things. And so they're storing these plays. You also have traveling bards and singers,
Yeah.
troubadouring about. But this nun in the 10th century by Hrosvita. So
Nice.
Hrosvitha. So she's in Gandersheim. So this German nun was reading these plays and was like, this representation of women is terrible. Uh, they're all abused wives or whores. And so she's like, I'm writing fanfic. I'm writing my own versions of these plays with better morality and like more aspirational female characters.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so we were girl bossing older stories since day one, since the 10th century. Uh
Oh
Hildegard
man, I love it.
Yeah, Hildegard von Bingen also did this as well, a famous nun composer. And on YouTube, you can find Hildegard von Blingen, who does bardcore covers of pop
Yes.
songs.
I was about to say, I was like, why does that name sound familiar to me? And I was like, no, it's because I love listening to the Bard chorus songs.
Yeah.
I think they just came out with a song that's like from K-pop Demon Hunter that I still have not listened to, but I saw that they'd made it and I was like, I can't wait to listen to the like Bard core of this song.
Yes. Uh, so these plays they come back into the zeitgeist mainly before the nuns themselves are writing it for each other. But theater is making moves. Especially you have a largely illiterate population.
Yeah.
Mass is all in Latin, and so the church uses primarily visual art to explain religion to people. And even the rich are often illiterate at this time. It's mainly like church people who are literate, so they're using art to explain their doctrines to people. But they're like,
Yeah.
we need more. We need to really like people aren't getting it just from the paintings.
Yeah.
So they made these liturgical dramas, and they were in
Yes.
Latin. And they were acted out on the altar, and they were like these visual representations of Bible stories. So they're like reading the Bible, and someone's acting it out on the
Yeah.
altar. Sort of like if you ever have been to like a Palm Sunday
Yep.
mass
Yes.
and they would read the gospel, and like you'd have assigned parts, and like the crowd, like the parishioners or the people in the pews are like the crowd scenes. Uh
Yes.
I always, as a kid, I was like, I don't like that we're the ones that have to be mean. I didn't like that there were no women playing the women's parts. It was all the men up
Yeah.
there. Or that it was like, I feel like some of these parts are double casted and I don't get the double casting. I had notes for Palm Sunday.
I just remember there's like one TikTok that a guy had made where he was like, I love Palm Sunday because we all get a prop because they like
Yes.
pass out like the like palm fronds and you
Yeah.
can like you're sitting there with them so that you can, be like waving them. But yeah, I'm like anytime church involves me like actually doing something instead of just like sitting and like listening, that I'm like, oh yes, I love to participate. I don't know if you could tell this about me. I'm a big time participator. And so yeah, I'm like passion plays. I'm like, yes. People
Yes.
I love just the idea of people being like, I'm bored. How can we amp up church? How can we like make this better? And they're like, I know, passion plays.
Fashion
Like,
plays.
let's start bring theater. They're like, theater's too pagan. Maybe
But
we
if it's
should
in
be doing
church, yeah, we should be doing theater.
we should be doing it.
Yeah, that's how I got my Roman soldier costume that I used for Perseus as well. that my mom made for my brother, and then I used it because we were usually a Roman soldier in the Passion Play,
Yes.
or the live Stations of the Cross. Yeah, lots of things going on. I used to keep those palms when I go to mass in college because you're not supposed to throw them away because they're blessed, so you have to burn them. So I just have them, and I'd put them above my bunk bed, and my roommate used to just like take them out and like poke me with them. It's like because he liked to annoy me for
Yeah.
fun, like we were friends, but he would
For
just
fun.
he would just like slowly be trying to shove it in my mouth. Be like, stop.
You're
So
like
yeah.
sleeping, he's just like tickling your ear with it or something.
Yeah. Yep. Uh, so that's happening inside the church, but it's Latin, so not
Yeah.
people still there. Not everyone can speak Latin. So they develop vernacular theater, which is in their language. So with that, whatever the local language is, and they develop morality and miracle plays. And these go from being performed on the steps of the church, so church adjacent, to the town square or the town green. They start to build stages, so they get more high production quality as they go on. Um, and there's still very much stories of like church, saints, the Bible, but they include like local flavor, maybe even comedic elements. They're in the language of the people. This was a big time for the devil. He really took off in these.
Yeah. The part of the devil, like people love Satan. Like if you're a theater kid, if you've ever been in theater, you know that the part of the villain is like usually the funnest part. Like it's
Yeah,
where you get to be the most fun. We have Jeff and I have a friend who is like a high school theater teacher, and he'll tell because always, especially if it's a girl who wants to be like the part of the princess or something, but instead she gets cast as like the villain, they're usually like really upset that they're like, no, I wanted to be in a princess dress. I wanted to, and he has to tell them like, you have the best part. You get to be villain. This like you have no greater opportunity. Sure, you wanted to be I'm thinking of like Into the Woods. There was like a girl. There's like, oh, I
like
wanted to be
Cinderella.
Cinderella. And
Yeah,
it was like, no, you get to be like the witch. That's the best
that is
role.
the best role. Yeah.
Like, um, and so yeah, of course, people were like, Satan, the best character of the whole thing, because he doesn't have to act holier than thou. He doesn't have to act like very pious. Like, no, he can just be an absolute like D-bag. Like,
Yeah. And he was often like a loser clown kind of character. And so the devil as like this big scary villain is much more like we're at the Reformation and there's upheaval and we're doing witch hunts and werewolf hunts and we're scared. The devil has his own, he's like becomes like God's opposite with his
yeah.
underground kingdom. Here it's like, well, God's obviously stronger than the devil. So he's just this like little loser that like the saint of the day is gonna defeat. Um and I did one time my priest actually asked me to write something like this for our church on Our Lady of Sorrows. And I didn't make the devil a character, which was really a miss on my part.
Mm.
But I did give the Virgin Mary a gal pal. And I realize whenever I adapt a story, a fairy tale, whatever, I'm always putting a gal pal in there.
Yeah.
Just someone
You're
they
like,
can talk to.
yeah, to pass the Bechdel test. You're like,
Yeah, to
Yeah.
talk to about something other than a man for at least
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm adding this priestess of Aphrodite. She's friends with the Virgin Mary.
Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. She needs a gal pal.
She needs a gal pal.
I love that.
And this is where like kind of what they would call extra biblical material. So stories that were not necessarily in the Bible or characters that were not in the Bible.
Yeah.
Um, I used to growing up, we used to do like when interacting with like the Mexican religious community, like posadas, and it's sort of like you would go door to door, like seeking room at the inn at Christmas time. And this
Yeah.
one church, this it was a play in Spanish, so I only got some of it, but it was this performance, like a play, and there was like about the stars, and there's the star that's supposed to be the Christmas star, and like the devil and his little sidekicks were trying to like dim her shine or something, and they like
Oh.
took her star and she was devastated, and then she had to like learn to shine even
Oh,
despite. So it's very fun, but I just remember
yeah.
her like screaming about my light or whatever.
This is also where we get Krampus showing up. Is like it comes from like the same thing where it's like all of these like plays that then were like the outdoor extra biblical, the like side stories where it's like, okay, now you have Saint Nicholas,
Yeah.
and Saint Nicholas weirdly is like working together with like devils and the creature because he's like they're going around like door to door knocking on people's doors and being like, hey kids, tell me like recite a scripture that you have learned in your like Sunday school this year, or I'm gonna let Satan come in and whip you. And it was like it was born out of like those the some of the plays that the community would like go to the town square, like a big like barn, and all be watching together, and then it's like, and now go home and wait to be terrorized by like your local Krampuses.
Yeah.
uh and it's just like people yearn for the theater is what I'm trying to
They
say.
they yearn for the theater, and it's like, because we're talking about the concept of canon, is that canon, the term comes from the Catholic Church. And so this was their MCU with their like we have our central canon, and then you have the
Yeah.
St. Nicholas spin-off, like his
Yeah.
string of movies with Krampus.
Yeah.
Uh so this is where, so they're doing these theatrical performances, and they have mystery plays, which retold Bible stories about Jesus or Old Testament figures. And sometimes this would be done in like a chronological series of plays called cycles. And there was a famous series of 48 plays from the Bible going from creation to the Last Judgment, written in the middle of the 15th century by the people of York in England. These plays still exist. We still have them written down. So they would do these 48 plays. That was like the whole,
That yeah, through
yeah,
the like whole like I'm
year
like, yeah, because I'm like, would they do them like one a week? Would they line up with the
With the
liturgical calendar? I
few
was like,
weeks off.
yeah, I'm like, this sounds like a very intense like production to be putting
Yeah,
on.
that'd be hard to organize now, and we can text.
Yeah.
Trying to organize that with like all your peasant friends. Damn. Uh, the guilds often sponsored and put on the plays. So the guilds being like groups of certain laborers and craftsmen. So they would often put on one that was related to their industry. Like the fishermen would do like the loaves and the fishes. And the
Nice.
carpenters and vintners and bakers might collaborate and do the Last Supper. Or the
Oh,
goldsmiths would do like the Three Kings.
yeah.
So everyone would like cater to show off their guilds abilities. So product placement, already a part of it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking on like like on in a spiritual sense, how like beautiful that they're like getting to feel like they're part of the Bible, that they're like reenacting these like stories that have like a spiritual significance, that they're like, "Oh, I'm very much like why I love participating is the like feeling the story on my body, like
Yeah,
feeling that activity." And so I'm like I love the aspect of that and the like community building that that does. That I'm like
yeah,
that serves so many functions. I love it.
yeah. And it does. It also highlights how, like, now I think we're so far removed from the world of the Bible, and how for them, like, they're people who were carpenters, like Jesus and Joseph, or fishermen, like Peter and John, like they were like much more familiar with the things people were doing in those
Yeah.
stories. And also, yeah, theater and participating. When I was really little, the first play I was in was The Chronicles of Narnia, and I was a chipmunk. And I felt that story, like I was in it, like it was so, because I was like 3 or 4, so like
Yeah.
reality fit, like it was loose,
Yeah. And especially like when you're sitting during like so many practices, like going to like
Mhm.
any like practice and you're hearing like all the lines and you're seeing everybody like around you. It's like you really absorb it like a story in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, I was also the donkey in the Christmas pageant. My line was hee haw. I said it a
Nice.
lot. I sat in front of baby Jesus.
Did
uh
Mary ride on top of you or you
no,
just
I think I
okay,
just,
that's good. 'Cause
yeah.
I
Happened
was
off
like, you poor
stage.
kid. Yeah.
I wore like a blue towel that had an Eeyore tail attached to it. And yeah, and so I do worry that because I sat in front of baby Jesus, that's why he initially scheduled the rapture for my birthday. He was
Mm.
like, you
Oh.
upstaged me back then. I'm gonna upstage your birthday.
I'm gonna upstage you.
But the rapture didn't happen, so he
It
let bygones be
didn't.
bygones, famously forgiving that Jesus guy. And yeah, but yeah, I was the donkey. And then in high school, when I did It's a Wonderful Life, I was the guy that goes hee haw, hee haw. So that really is
Wow,
a
like a
full circle
theme.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an
Wow.
ass, I guess.
I know. At least you know what your part would be in A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, like don't. I'm here to be bottom. All right, let's
Yeah.
go. Um, So they also have these morality plays, which were stories about morality, and they were religious, but they had different characters or like personifications of like patience or virtue or sin. They leaned into music and dance and comedy more, even having like sing-along aspects. And eventually the secular elements overtook the religious sections because uh they were just more fun. People were like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, morality, but okay, let's sing, let's dance. Um, and as religion became more debated and controversial with the Renaissance and the Reformation, they were like, let's just do the singing stuff. Like, let's just have fun. But this was all kind of, I'm simplifying a lot of big waves of European culture. You also have the masks that royalty would put on, these kind of like masked performances and these spectacles. Shakespeare's The Tempest was famously like inspired by these, and they often had like supernatural elements, and they reflected like more money and social focus on a centralized monarchy as opposed to the church, because with so many nobility of varying levels of importance, the church was very much like the center of life. But you have slowly the birth of the concept of like a kingdom or a nation, and that being the center of power. One of the most famous secular plays from the 13th century was Les Jeux de Robin et Marion by Adam de la Halle. Um, and this led to Robin Hood and Marion being connected, even though the Robin and Marion in this play unrelated from Robin Hood and Maid Marian. It's just a shepherdess named Marion. This knight is trying to seduce her. She's like, "No, I have a boyfriend. His name's Robin." And it is about the conflict of her rejecting this knight. And it's also a musical. And that was very popular.
Did
But
she have a chastity belt?
no, because those aren't a real thing.
Yeah.
No one had those.
No one had those.
Uh,
But they're a main point
in this film.
in this film.
Yeah. Uh, and
Sorry,
check
I veered
No,
us
but they're
off.
there. Yeah, it's a good thing to point out. Secular plays, they had the three F's. They had fey, fucking, and farting. They had
Yes.
a lot more stories about fairies, stories about love,
I was like,
sexuality,
speaking of A
farting.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah. So Shakespeare is very much like at the end of this long journey of theater, where theater has now become something you go to a theater to see, and it's sponsored by the monarchy. And it was disallowed under the Puritans and then allowed again. Uh, and speaking of things that the Puritans didn't like, we are going to talk about the May Games. Uh, that's a big part of Robin Hood's popularity.
Yeah.
Again, we're simplifying a lot of complex historical and religious trends. You have The Knight's Tale by Chaucer, which references the heroine Amelie picking flowers on May Day. So by the Middle Ages, May Day is a known holiday. There's, pagan origins. How to define what those are is always, again, debatable. You have Beltane, the Irish Spring Festival. You have Roman Floralia in honor of the goddess Flora. And you have the Greco-Roman Mayuma Festival for Dionysus and Aphrodite. So spring fever. It's a common,
Yeah.
you want to have a holiday. But this day had the Maypole and Morris dancing, and it had the May Queen, which would eventually become Maid Marian. So the Queen of the May. Um, And she had a consort who would be the Green Man or the May King or Jack of the Green, and eventually Robin Hood. So as Robin Hood became popular, he was absorbed into this holiday couple, this Santa and Mrs. Claus of Mayday, and she
Yeah.
became Maid Marian. Uh, and this is because Robin Hood plays became popular at the May Games. So in 1427, we had one of the first Robin Hood plays in Exeter, which is a church that was famous for, it has a lot of Green Man imagery in its architecture. And one of the earliest known references to the impersonation of Robin Hood in village plays occur from 1476 onwards at Crosscombe in North Somerset, where they mention you have records of people paying people to be Robin Hood for the festival. So the church is hiring someone to be Robin Hood.
Nice.
Um, and in 1475, one of the oldest authentic medieval play fragments that we have has the first known instance of Friar Tuck, who the Abbot of Unreason was sort of a festival character, and he gets absorbed into the mythology as Friar Tuck. And the short carnival folk play, Robin Hood and the Friar, features Robin Hood giving a maiden to Friar Tuck, who straps on a huckleduckle, a wooden phallus that rises an
Ah,
inch above the buckle.
of course. I had
So
forgotten about
the
the wooden,
huckleduckle,
the
yeah,
huckleduckle. Yeah.
yeah. So Robin Hood is taking the role of the Green Man, the bringer of fertility and sex, and the friar is kind of critiquing maybe the morality of local church people. And so Robin is often in various plays and ballads like Robin Hood and the Monk. He is against monks who are worldly, and he's very pious and devoted to the Virgin Mary. So he's a man of virtue. And inversion is a big part of medieval festivities. Think of like in Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? Like the
Yeah.
Feast of Fools, Twelfth Night, uh, Insurrection Day, January 6th. That is the 12th night. And again, Shakespeare coming up.
Yeah.
Like Twelfth Night is a play about role reversals.
Yeah.
And I got to see a production of it at the Globe Theatre when I went to London.
Oh,
So
awesome.
jealous of you.
It was fun. We paid for standing seats, so it was like the €5, but I
Nice.
was glad they're doing 12th Night. I was like, if they're doing like some deep cut, this is gonna be rough.
You're like, no, do something fun.
Yeah, I was like, okay, good, good. Um,
Feel like it's time for what is like Henry the Fifth or something.
yeah, like a history.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
was like, oh, not one of these.
yeah. I like some of the tragedies. Like I like a King Lear or a Hamlet. But I would not want to be standing for like Henry VII Part 4 or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My favorite I had to read, I think it was Richard III. And there's a bishop who comes in and is like, guys, I have these fresh strawberries. And they're like, wow. He's like, yeah, we should all eat these strawberries sometime. They're like, okay, bishop. And he like does not come up again. I'm like, what's the deal with strawberry guy?
One of my like favorites is such a tangent. In the Scottish play, there
Mm.
is this one character who normally gets cut for time, but like his entire point is that like they're changing the set behind him. And so he's just like outside, but he's like a tower guard, and he's just talking to this other guy where he's like, "Oh man, I got so drunk last night that like I couldn't get it up. Has that ever happened to you where you just can't get it up because you're so drunk? Has that happened?" And the other guy's like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess." And he's just going on and on about it until it's like the set's been moved, and then he's like, "Well, anyway, back to like guard duty." And it's like Shakespeare.
It's like
Shakespeare
bringing on
never
the stand-up
changed.
comedian, yeah, in the intermission to keep people entertained so they don't
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
Shakespeare really captured like, the human struggle.
Of not being able to get it up because you're
Yeah,
too
when
drunk.
you're too drunk, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. And so, but when you don't have the huckle-duckle on hand. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have your huckleduckle, you're gonna have a hard time.
Hard. Maybe
Mm,
it's not
soft
not
time.
so hard time. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe the opposite of Taylor Swift's new song would. So We get we get Robin Hood and Marian getting connected through the May Festival. And this is, speaking of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon are as attending a royal May game in 1516 with 200 men from the King's Guard dressed in green under the leadership of Robin Hood. And they lead the king and queen into an arbor erected in the wood beneath Shooter's Hill, where they feasted with wine and venison. And on their return home, the royal party were met by a chariot drawn by 5 horses, in which sat the Lady May, accompanied by Lady Flora, who saluted the king with songs. And this is from a manuscript from that time. And I believe it was Anne of Cleves that because Henry VIII loved Robin Hood. When Anne of Cleves arrived, he surprised her dressed as Robin Hood, trying to do like these kind of like May game festivities, like appearing like, "Hi, I'm in your room and I'm Robin Hood." And she had never seen him before, and he was no longer the young, strapping, athletic man he was in his youth. And so she was like, "Who's this scary man who broke into my room and is coming for me?" And this tries to fight him off. And so he was like, "I like her not." And people said, "Oh, it's because she's ugly. She didn't look like her portrait." But it was partially because he terrified her and he
Yeah.
was ugly. And she was like, "Ew, get away from me, this man invading my house." And he
And
didn't like
then
that.
he was like, "Oh, I feel insulted. Therefore, you're the problem."
Yep. Yeah.
She didn't look like her picture. It's like, whatever. Probably you didn't look like your
Your picture.
picture.
Yeah. Uh, Oh, good old Henry VIII. One of the things I saw it was in the Windsor Castle where he's buried is he had commissioned a huge tomb for himself, but it wasn't done when he died, and everyone was like, okay, we don't need it. And it's like a slab on the chapel, like in the center of the chapel where it's him, Jane Seymour, uh the guy who got beheaded, one of the Charleses who got beheaded in the Glorious Revolution by the Puritans, and then 2 of another queen's children who died as babies. And they're just all in here.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
we walk on top of them.
It's like it's one of those things that makes you think about life and the legacy that you leave behind, where it's like while you're alive and you're like, everybody's under my power and I'm going to tell you what I want. You have to do what I want. And then it's like the second you're dead, people are like, anyway,
Yeah, okay.
now we're going to treat you the way that we wish we could have treated you while you were alive.
As Yzma says, he ain't getting any deader.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It was like the Emperor's New Groove. They're like, all right, he's dead. Now let's paint over everything because the new person that's bossing you all around gets to tell you that they get all the praise and the adoration.
Yeah.
I love
And people were willing to go along with it because they also were not a huge fan.
Yeah, they're like, oh, the guy who caused all that trouble. Ooh.
He's dead. Oh, too bad. Anyway.
Yeah, Wendy Williams. Aw, okay.
I just went to this summer like an exhibit, like a traveling exhibit with like replicas of stuff from King Tut's tomb, and that's like kind of that story. Like King Tut's dad like came in and it's like, nope, there's no more of these gods that you're worshiping. Like there's only this one god, which is I think it's Amun.
Or Aten. It's like the
Aten,
sun with
yeah,
like
because
the
it was
hands.
like Amun before, because whatever his name got changed to be named after like King Tut got changed to be named after the one god that his like dad like had worshipped. I mean, he's like got destroy all the images of all the other pharaohs and stuff before me, and then once his dad died, King Tut was like, oh hey, actually, you know what? Like let's try to undo that stuff. It's just like a funny thing of not so funny that it actually happens, but just like let's get rid of and forget about all these people before that they made you put their face and name on everything, and then now it's my turn, put my face and my name on everything instead.
Yeah. And the moment you're dead, people can just be like, let's just undo everything you just did,
Yeah.
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 We all will die.
Death comes for us all. Yeah. Even Robin Hood. There's lots of stories about his death.
Good segue.
Lots of stories. We're not talking about those today, to be fair, but there are stories about them. But they're also in the accounts of chamberlains and churchwardens of Kingston upon Thames for May Day from between 1507 and 1536. there are charges or like the money saved for doing the Morris dance, for the dressing the lady, Little John, Robin Hood, and Maid Marian. There are also accounts related to expenses for the King and Queen of May. And later accounts reference the cost of the King and Robin Hood being entered together. So now they're one character. In the later half of the 16th century, there was a decline in May festivals and games. This was a result of disapproval, initially led by like radical Protestants, and fears of social disorder that had come to be associated with parish gatherings. And so they just went out of style. Um, there was a more conservative bend, and eventually Jack of the Green was banned. That character, no Huckleduckles allowed in England anymore.
Oh man.
Until
Bring
Charles,
bring back the Huckleduck.
bring back the Huckleduckle. Until Jack of the Green came back, till Charles II was reinstated. And the end of the Cromwell era, they were like, all right, we're theater's back, May games are back, Huckleduckles are back, like
Yes.
the party's on, people. And May Day is still acknowledged and celebrated in England. St. Magdalene's College has a famous tradition where people gather to hear the choir sing the Song of May. It's become a holiday associated with labor, like May Day, the celebration of like labor unions and laborers uniting together. Uh, and there's also, growing up, we would do these. It became May was like the Virgin Mary's month, and you could do these like May coronations. Again, another church pageant where like one girl would be the May crowner, and there were like different girls who had to hold different things, and like you had to. It was like a competition of who got to be the girl to crown the Mary statue, and they would have like a whole coronation ceremony. It was a very long mass, so we like to avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family
Unless
didn't like too many songs. Yeah.
it's
Um,
it's good to have those memories of like, I wasn't a fan, it went too long. Like,
too long.
fair enough. Meanwhile, there's like other girls who are like, they can vividly remember not being picked and being like, I can't believe they let so and so blah blah blah. It's
Yep.
like, yeah, there's always drama no matter.
There's always drama. In my husband's hometown in Mexico, they had a parade for Saint Joseph, and one year he was Saint Joseph, so he had to like hold a baby Jesus doll and like be dressed as Saint Joseph. And he said people were like talking behind his back that like he shouldn't have been chosen to be
Yeah.
Joseph, for this, that, or the other reason. And it's like, oh, communities, they're the same everywhere.
Yeah, no, because I'm like, in my church every year they would have like they would do like, the big like a nativity
Yeah.
play, but it was like um different rooms like in the church that you would like go through were like
Ooh.
different parts of like the story. And so this girl who got picked to be Mary one year, the last room is like Mary singing this song, like to like baby Jesus, Joseph's in the room, but it's like a solo. This one girl
Mm.
got it, and this other girl was super, super jealous. She kind of like, she threw a fit, her mom threw a fit. So then they were like, oh, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll have like a live nativity in front of the church building so that like there's some songs that'll go there and this girl can be that Mary and then the one in the building and it was like, oh my gosh. Like,
The
but it
Bible
is,
too Marys, too
yeah.
many. Yeah.
But yeah, it is like communities are the same like everywhere. So it is like really funny to even like imagine like back to like what we were talking about of like the like back when people were first doing like these like different mysteries and all the different like passion plays and stuff, the kind of probably the politics that went into picking like who got to be this person and this and oh, I'm sick of seeing them get to play that part. When is it going to be so and so's turn?
Yeah.
Because
And
people are the same throughout time
yeah. And were women allowed to be playing the
in
Virgin
them.
Mary?
Yeah.
Was it a young man? And there are some of these plays did have women in them. So
Yeah.
because they were community like religious plays, and then other
Yeah.
times to be an actress was basically to be a prostitute,
Yeah.
like that's how they people viewed it. and there's nothing wrong with being a sex worker,
Nope.
get your bag, however you need
Yep.
to survive, but people
Would
would
have
have all these
stoned you for
judgments.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like people are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people liked the songs and the dancing more than
Yeah.
heavy-handed messaging. Wow.
Yeah. And
Who
I'm
would have thought?
just imagine like the people who are fighting over who would get the huckle duckle.
Yeah.
They're
The
like,
Huckle Duckle,
this is
that
my year.
reading about that was like, wow, now I know I chose the right research topic for this because there's basically a scene like that in this
Inside
movie.
Men in Tights. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, wow, Mel Brooks really did his research.
Yeah, he really was on the finger on the pulse of
Yeah.
medieval storytelling. Uh so let's talk about Men in Tights. Now that we did all
Yes.
this stuff about religion,
You know what? I think you segued well from like religion into the more what is secular,
secular, yeah.
especially like Henry VIII. Finding out that Henry VIII was really into Robin Hood actually might have ruined Robin Hood for me. I'm like, how dare he like Robin Hood when it's like this play is about
Yeah, no, it's Euphoria. Is this
yeah,
play
like
about us?
is this play about us? Like yes, like oh my gosh, like the bad guy is you. You is the bad guy.
Yeah, you're probably because the episode for Errol Flynn, I did all this research on King Richard and Prince John, and they're both not great guys. And I'm like, but Henry VIII could arguably be worse than both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is one of the weird things about it too. And like we have talked about doing an episode on our podcast about Robin Hood. And so I did like the bare minimum of starting to do research, which I rarely do in any case. But like hearing about the ways that Robin Hood was reframed so much, and like the one that we're most familiar with to think about, like Robin Hood was loyal to the king. Like, yeah, he's like not against like this, like robbing from the rich to give to the poor. He's robbing from Prince John, but he's only robbing from Prince John because it's not the monarch that
Yeah,
he is
Recognizes.
loyal to and recognizes. So
Yeah.
it's like, but he wouldn't have been stealing from that other king. So it's like not really like an anti-monarchy thing. It's like, there's like the different emphasis placed on those things at different
yeah,
times,
yeah. I mean,
which I thought that was fascinating.
that's what it was interesting in my research because even rob from the rich to give to the poor kind of came about through like some of the May game stuff. It like wasn't
Uh,
early on, and
Interesting.
I think the even just like the loyalty to Richard, and that is like this thing that allowed Robin Hood to exist in this again, like shoot me in the foot. I'm using the word liminal, but that liminal space where it's like, oh, uh he's a rebel, he's breaking the rules, but we can still tell this story because ultimately he's loyal to the king. And I don't even mean that in like the medieval sense. Because in the medieval sense, he tended to be more against like the lower nobility or the church, and then the king was good. But in like a modern American sense, if they didn't want him to be too anti-authority, but okay, if it's just like the wrong king and then the right king is coming and
Yeah.
he sports the correct
Yeah.
authority, then we can tell this story. It fits the very like Anglo-American,
Yeah.
like we like the idea of rebellion, but like not too much.
Yeah, where it's like he's not an anarchist. We don't want him to be an anarchist. He
Yeah,
still recognizes some authority. He just fights for justice, justice being not too much taxation with that representation. Like,
yeah,
thank you, America, for like being like, oh, here's our take on it. Like,
yeah,
he's just doesn't like people being taxed too much by kings, specific kings and leaders. It's like, really?
yeah,
We get it. Don't
yeah.
tread on me.
Specifically, the
Like
king from the whole Magna Carta incident.
specifically this one
Yeah,
guy.
it is one of the favorite things I've on this podcast is seeing how characters are constantly recontextualized from their story to whoever is retelling them. Like Cinderella always reflects the values of whatever culture, time that we retell her in. So as much as we're like this timeless story, of she's good, but it's like what makes her good it just depends on who's
Mhm.
Who's
telling the
telling the
story.
story?
And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same for Robin Hood. It's like
Yeah.
he, what makes him good in each version depends on who's, is it because he is giving out huckleduckles and he's showing how licentious the clergy are and he's the real pious one? Is it because he's fighting against taxation without representation? You know, uh, is it just because he's funnier?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which I know in a previous like episode that you did, you like mentioned like Reinhard the Fox.
yeah.
Um and there was something that you just said just now that reminded me of that, and I'm trying to remember now what it was.
Well, it was
Uh
Disney was talking about making Reynard the Fox, and they were like, he's too anti-authority. Let's
yeah.
do Robin Hood.
When I rewatch this back, I'm gonna suddenly like remember like why I brought it up. Because it had something to do with like that it's like Reinhard the Fox is like he was too bad of a character to kind of do a children's movie about,
Yeah.
but they could use parts of him for what they did like about his like rebelliousness.
Yeah. Because
But maybe I was gonna say something smart like that.
well, Reynard is kind of like a Loki character where there are times where it's like he's written to be like, oh, he's fun, he's silly, goofy, but then like, and that's how their perspective is. But when
Yeah.
you look at what he's actually doing,
Yeah.
like to us as a modern audience, is like, so he's a murderer, like he's
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like
yeah.
murdering people, but it's funny.
Yeah,
Like,
because he's like, oh ho ho, you're a cuckold. Like I made you a cuckold, so funny. And but also I have like ripped the skin off of this other animal. It's like, that's not fun. That's
yeah,
not fun for me. I don't like that. Like, like,
yeah,
like some things are funny. Like, I personally don't think it's funny the idea of people like running around cheating on their spouses, but that was usually like something that was like played for comedy, even like Canterbury Tales or like whatever. And
yeah,
like Reinhard the Fox was like very much that. And then it's like, then some things it's like, I don't. That's really not funny.
yeah.
Like cheating on a spouse, hilarious. Burning someone's house down, not funny.
Not funny. The lines we draw.
Not cool. But anyway, I derailed us by then forgetting what I was going to say.
But we're at the beginning of the movie where they're burning down
Perfect.
people's houses, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
It's the credits with the flaming arrows, and the villagers are like, every time they do a Robin Hood movie, they burn down our village in the intro.
Where
Which
it's
was that
like,
was it was such a good start to the movie too, because of like that. It's really well done, and it shows like these people can make a movie. They can make it good, like because those credits with like the flaming arrows and stuff, it like looks like it could be the beginning of a serious Robin
Yeah.
Hood movie.
yeah,
But then it's
where
not, and it's then joking about like, oh, they always do this, and we suffer the consequence, like immediately like undercutting it with the comedy.
yeah, because it almost felt like a joke of like, oh yeah, look at this really cool graphic that's really popular right now, like starting off with this kind of like actiony, and then it's like, but for real, we lit this house on fire and it's hilarious.
I mean, if I learned anything from Monty Python, it's that villagers complaining is always hysterical. Like a medieval
Yeah.
villager being like,
Oh yeah.
wait, wait, wait. uh, and so we open with the village burning and then a very 90s rap
Oh
uh,
man.
introducing us to Robin Hood.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I loved that so much just because of like the hokiness of that because it's like I feel like that was so much going on then of like, oh, do you know what's really cool right now? Is like hip hop songs and then like making fun of how other like I felt like he was
Yeah.
making fun of how other
Yes.
people are like using that for fun because I'm even thinking about like the Dare program and it's like in like the 90s the Dare program was like oh we're gonna do a rap about how doing drugs is way not cool very not gangster and it's like Really? It feels like pandering. It feels like pandering hard. We're school children and we recognize it and we don't like it. And
Yeah.
so yes, the rap, I was like, perfect.
And we've come full circle because I can then the Robin Hood live action remake that I'm sure Disney will do. We have an opening rap from Lin-Manuel Miranda
Yeah.
as Alan Adale, Uh so we go to the prison, the Saracen prison, with where Robin's being taken to the dungeon with the dungeon maitre d',
Hmm.
uh, which I loved the idea of a dungeon maitre
Maitre d'.
d'.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds
same.
like a game you could get for like $3 on Steam and have a great time. And he's
I
just
just
like,
suddenly was like, oh, you're not a dungeon master, you're a dungeon maitre d'. That's what I
yeah.
was like.
And he's like, okay, like, let me get you comfortable. Here's your seat tied up here. Oh, you're not up to dress code. Don't worry. We have a beard for you.
Which I felt like was a like reference to like Prince of Thieves, where it's like,
Yes.
oh, he's unrecognizable because he has this beard, and they're like, oh, we're showing you in this dungeon way too early. You haven't even got your beard growing yet. Let's put a beard on you. So you got that going. I was like, hilarious.
And I love Carrie Elwes's performance because he is so like Wesley is sort of inspired by Errol Flynn's Robin Hood, and now he's playing a Robin Hood spoof, and he's sort of spoofing himself.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's like that is a chef's kiss
Yeah,
moment.
like great
Um,
casting and then a great performance on his part too.
and he was
Yeah.
almost in, or he was reached out or considered for the role of Robin Hood in Prince of Thieves.
Oh wow, I never knew that.
So it really interesting moment there.
Yeah. I
And
was just thinking at the beginning, like when it started, I'm like, I'm so glad that this movie was made before 2001 because every single thing that happened after 2001 in Middle East, after that,
Uh,
it's like all one like thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's like the jokes, even though it's like, some of the jokes like, oh, this doesn't age well or whatever,
yeah,
it felt like it was in better taste than it would have been after.
yes,
So there's
yeah,
that.
yeah. Our whole concept of just like the Middle East Islam was so very different.
Yeah.
Even just our concept of the Crusades.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. My big thing with the Crusades is I think people like to talk about them more than colonialism because it's easier to be like, that's something those people did a long time ago. They
Yeah.
were crazy. And it's like, oh, we did something a lot more extreme and worse and with long-term consequences much more recently. And
Yeah.
everything about our modern world is built on it. So let's yeah. Uh so Achu is there. He helps him escape basically in a pretty similar way to how they escape the prison in Snow White. Don't they just like undo the
Pull
chains,
real hard.
pull
Pull
real
real hard
hard?
and just leave.
Yeah.
They're
And
like,
they,
oh no, we're trapped here. Like, what will become of us? Oh, I guess if we yank together,
yep, it
we
goes
can
away.
escape.
And he distracts the guard. They're like, "Oh, they're calling you." He's like, "Oh, they hate bad news." Or they hate bad news, but they love good news. And then he brings them and everyone's escaped and he's like, "Oh no."
Oh no, it's just bad news.
So Achu is like, go to England. This is my son, a sneeze. He's a foreign exchange student. Help him out. And so Robin Hood just swims to
Swims all the
England.
Yes.
way, all the way through the Mediterranean Sea and
Yeah.
around.
I absolutely loved the ridiculousness of that. That was like, I don't know, felt very Monty Python, very like, ah, perfect. We're not going to over explain it. He's just gonna hop straight into the water and we're gonna show it on map.
And this movie, this sense of humor, weirdly enough, Back to Religion reminds me of VeggieTales. VeggieTales had a lot of humor that was like this, just kind of like tongue in cheek, like for the adults, like,
Mhm.
oh, he just swam on the map. And as a kid, you're just like, okay, but like when you
Like,
got a
I
little,
accept this.
Yeah.
yeah, then you're like, wait. But he lands in England with the England Hollywood sign.
Uh,
Yeah.
Um, and he sees a sneeze being beat up by
I
some.
think that one's a chew. Isn't wasn't
is
I
the
thought,
son? Yeah, I can't remember which one's which.
because
I think
I
the
just
son is a
kept
wait,
chew. I think Dave Chappelle's a chew
because they kept
because
they
they make
like
the jokes about like it sounding like it's like he is literally
yeah.
sneezing.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that sounds
Like,
right.
and going back to when he lands in England too, I remember as a kid like feeling so vindicated may not be the right word, but like when he like gets to the shore in England, he's like kissing the sand and then like comes up and he's like spitting out
Like
the sand in his mouth. Because I remember seeing other movies where they would like do that, like kiss the earth, like, oh
Yeah,
my home country or whatever, and me being like, that is so dumb. Like, why are they kissing dirt? And like this movie's like, yes, okay, pointing out how like how it's
yeah, it's
terrible
gonna
would be
get in your
terrible to
mouth.
get your all this sand in your mouth.
it reminds me of Airplane with that scene where they're like making love on the beach and just how like messy that is. Because there was a
Yeah.
movie that came out a few years before that they were like making out on the beach and it was so beautiful. And then you think about really if you're getting nasty on the beach and there's sand and in
Yeah,
places Anakin never dreamed about,
Yeah.
just like he hates sand and it's so coarse and now it's everywhere. And
yeah,
yeah,
And it is like we pointed out a few times already, like kind of the pillar of sort of the Mel Brooks comedy of like, let me do this thing that other people do, but show you how ridiculous it actually is, like how
yeah.
stupid it is. But they treat it so seriously. But
yeah.
like, this is what it's actually like, but in the comedy, and that
I
makes it funny.
Yeah, and it's a very different parody style than I feel like our parody now is a lot more like we're not doing a straight up parody, but we're doing a thing and something happens and then they go wink wink, nudge
Mm-hmm.
nudge. Yeah. Like isn't it crazy that Ella Enchanted is doing this? Wah,
Mm, yeah,
Um there's a great fight scene where he's like, "Watch my back," and he watches his back.
Your back
yeah.
just got punched
He likes
twice or whatever.
And I've noticed in almost every Robin Hood movie I've watched, there's this scene early on where he like confronts the sheriff or Guy of Gisborne who's like
Mm-hmm.
bullying somebody out in the woods upon his arrival. Um, and he meets the sheriff and he uh challenges him and he reverses him on his horse and trying to think he like cuts
Yeah,
his.
it cuts the saddle so he's like
Because it's so
flips
he's
upside down.
yeah,
Yeah, and then the horse rides off, and it's like bonk,
bong
bonk,
bong bong
bonk.
bong. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do with like my Legos. If I was like making a story as a kid with Legos, I'd be like,
yeah,
oh, and this happens. And if he was a Lego, his head would probably roll off, and you have to go collect his Lego
yeah.
head. Yeah,
And that's one of those things that like I feel like nowadays,
nowadays,
nowadays, um, it it's it feels like cartoonish. Like it
yeah,
just feels so cartoony. The like gabonk 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 because the way that we like reality is something that people don't really like playing with. They are kind of like, oh, let's think about like the logical conclusion. If that was actually happening, he would be getting hurt, he'd be knocked unconscious, he'd probably be dead. And so like there's not that allowance for something that is like live action like that to be cartoonily funny, to be like
yeah.
that level. Um, and so it's like there's part of me that was like, oh, as I'm watching that going, that's not my sense of humor. Like that's not like that seems corny.
I feel like the most slapstick I see now is in like Lindsay Lohan holiday movies. She does a lot of physical comedy in those. And in Freakier Friday, which was
Oh man,
delightful.
I haven't seen Freaker Friday yet, but I just like remembered when the Christmas one that was like falling for Christmas or
Yeah.
whatever, and like her like whoa, like going like off the back of like a mountain and knocking her head. Now she has amnesia, and there, yeah. Anyway,
Amazing no notes.
like perfect.
Um but
Ah,
but they we get this scene that's similar to in Prince of Thieves, where he comes home and his house has been ravaged and he sees his dad's tortured body. But he gets home to his house and it's being repossessed and like a prop just like pulled away and it's just the foundations. They see his Blinken, his blind servant,
Uh,
having some time with a medieval Playboy scroll.
Yes.
Uh, and is so excited to see him. It's like, oh wow, you've changed because he's feeling this Venus statue that's left. He's feeling
Yeah.
her
You've lost
boobs.
your arms.
It was, I think it was around that point, like in the movie, was when I made my comment, like when he'd like flipped down the like Playboy and was like rubbing that, that I said to my husband, I hope that some of this is aged well. I was like, no, no. Because it was very like, oh, this guy's blind and also just a creep, a full creep.
And his what was the he's like, oh, what happened to your dad died of heartbreak.
Uh-huh.
Your dog got hit by a car. Your goldfish is
Yeah.
is dead.
That
Uh
was that's one of my favorite like little jokes in the whole movie is like going down of like what happened to these people, they're all dead, and it's like, oh, like what happened to my goldfish? Oh, it got eaten by the cat. My
The
cat
cat
choked on
choked
the
on the
goldfish. It was
goldfish.
like, oh man, so perfect. I love it.
and he looks more disappointed each time. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, great. Uh And so that's when he has his confrontation with the sheriff, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna be rebels now." But he did find his Blinken is like, "Your father left this key to the most important treasure in the land."
Yep.
Uh,
And we cut to Maid Marian in her Venus clamshell bathtub, dreaming of her true love, singing a song. Um, Bathing in her metal chastity belt
Yep.
panties.
Yep. Dry off before it starts to rust.
I was just like imagining like the water in between like a metal.
oh,
Ooh, I was like, I hate that for her.
so
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Uh, and it is funny because this is where I'm just gonna say I feel like this is a parody of a character I haven't seen. Um,
Mm.
because I don't really think there's any version of Marion in any movie I've seen so far like this. To be fair,
Yeah.
I didn't watch the silent Douglas Fairbanks Robin Hood for this, but even like Olivia de Havilland in
Yeah.
Errol Flynn is a very opinionated, like strong-willed character.
Yeah.
So it's like she's sort of like a Disney parody, but again,
Mhm.
even that like that's kind of a reductive view of those characters.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the Disney Maid Marian is the most like of the Maid Marians I've seen the most like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
passive because also they just like forget to put her in the last third of the movie. They had a tight budget of that one.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like her character was very much this like, hey, this character only really needs to exist in this movie for one specific purpose, and that's what she offers, like in terms of a prize to be won
Yeah.
by somebody. And like that's just like her feature. And so it's like, hey, like that's your direction. You're just a woman that like I want true love, and for someone to take this like belt off of me, who's going to be the special guy, and like that's it. Like that's all
Yeah.
that like she really needed to be. And then like I feel like there are so many characters just like in movies, not just like um uh Robin Hood movies, but like women in movies that where it really is like you only exist in this movie to be this prize like person that's
Yeah.
won.
mhm. Or
Like
like the
every
motivation, like the dead
the
wife.
yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
like I'm even thinking of like in like Indiana Jones where
Yeah.
like it's a new woman every Indiana Jones movie. I'm thinking of the original three, not
Yeah.
like late. But it's like, oh, it's a new woman every James Bond. There's a new woman, and I guess James Bond. it varies like a little bit more of like
Yeah.
what they do, but where it's just like she's just a woman who's in the movie to be this like love interest, this person that two guys are fighting over who gets to possess her or like who gets to save her or whatever. And so like yeah, she seems very much like the commentary that they're making on it is just like, and here's a woman
Yeah.
because you're expecting one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I wonder, I was like, because I know like so chastity belts are like sort of a Victorian fantasy
Yeah.
that they had these. But we were in the 90s and I very much grew up in like the 2000s like purity culture and that
Yeah.
being so prevalent and just like with Mel Brooks and his kind of like eye for social satire, I wonder if
Yeah.
he was like sort of sensing the beginnings of another purity culture era.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to remember if in Spaceballs, if Princess Leia also had one. Like, for some reason, I have not seen Spaceballs in probably like 20 something years, but I feel like that there was something that introduced that idea to me in like the early 2000s, because that's probably when I would have seen
yeah.
Spaceballs, because I remember watching it at a friend's house. But there it was around that time when like that idea, I feel like I remember hearing people talking about it as if it was like a thing that like really happened like in antiquity, and me being like, oh, that sounds like really crazy. But it seeing this movie was not the first time that like the concept had ever
Yeah.
like come up. Like it didn't seem when I watched it that um like weird. Like it wasn't like, wait, what's going on? I was like, oh, chastity belts.
Like I googled it, which makes me remember because it's in front of me. But there's the Virgin alarm, like her droid in
Oh,
Spaceballs
the
had like
virgin
the when
alarm.
like she's about to kiss uh Bill
Uh,
Pullman, or it's like the droid, the C-3PO equivalent starts like because she's like it's
yeah.
programmed into her to like make sure that that Princess Leia stays chaste or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's such an interesting concept to keep like coming up. But yeah, it's like um that purity culture, the idea of like, oh, the prize to be won isn't even necessarily like the woman so much as like her vagina.
Yeah. And
And and being the first one
to
to touch
enter,
it. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean also when I think of like 80s comedies and there was so much like we think of like Revenge of the Nerds and so much of like women as meat sacks that you like achieve and conquer. And so it's like, is it a commentary on that? And like how much of comedy is just like men trying to get laid? How much of even rom-coms can be just men trying to get laid?
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I'm like we had said at the beginning when we're talking about like looking at parodies and like them them aging. Parodies, it's interesting because the thing that they are commentating on might not exist currently, like in that same way anymore. And so it's like he wasn't Mel Brooks wasn't not inventing like the concept, he was commenting on it. And
Yeah.
so it's like seeing it pop up in like several things, it's like, okay, yeah, no, he definitely was like trying to like show to highlight that this is like a thing where it's like, oh, this is a main part of like the woman that you're trying to get in the movie is like her
Yeah.
virginity. That's what you're trying to get. It's not just like her as a person, it's her virginity you're trying to get.
Yeah. Well, especially also when you think of like American like intercultural and interracial relations. So especially between like Jewish communities and Christian communities that I mean predates America or like the Black American communities and white American communities, how much like the chastity of women was used as
Yeah.
part of that demonizing the other and we must
Mhm.
protect this
Yeah.
chastity. And as if he's kind of coming from that marginalized place, how comical that
Yeah.
can look because it really is about them as property, not like their freedom and will to have
Yeah.
autonomy in their own body,
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And how much that's still part of our cultural discourse.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's Maid Marian and her and Broomhilda.
What
Uh,
Broomhilda, that was the character that, like, as I'm watching it, I was like, I would love to play her. Like, this is the kind of character that I would want to like be her or Latrine. The
yeah,
most fun parts I feel like in this like movie to play. That those would be. But Broomhilda reminded me very much of the nurse in Romeo and Juliet. Like
yeah.
that kind of stock character of like a little bit like raunchy, older,
Mhm.
wiser, but also like I'm trying to look out for your best interest. Don't make my job harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, and that was Bess in the Errol Flynn Robin Hood. That was Rebecca, I want to say her name was in the yeah, I want to say in Prince of Thieves, Uh but speaking of latrine, so we get like Prince John, who is so just every scene I'm like, that's Lord Farquaad. And he's mad about Robin coming back, and he goes to consult his witch, Latrine.
Yeah.
And she is putting together these spells, and she's like, "Oh yes, it's foretold." And he's like, "Do you know for sure?" She's like, "No, I mean, that's what you get. I'm a cook, not a witch. Eat
Yeah.
this."
Here, eat your dinner.
And she really she's in love with the sheriff, and she's willing to make a deal for magic to get the sheriff.
Yeah.
And he's like, sure, all right.
Which, man, I'm like, I love that this was like included where it's like juxtaposing like the two things of like, oh, to take possession of a woman, like disgusting. For a woman to try to like sexually assault a man, hilarious.
Yeah.
So funny. A disgusting woman trying to get on top of a gross man. Beautiful. Like peak comedy.
Peak comedy. And it's funny because also Prince John reminds me he's so much a Hollywood exec. Like if other Prince Johns were like parodies of like conniving like royalty, it's like this is a parody of like someone,
Schmarmy
yeah.
Hollywood execs.
Yeah. And but yeah, Latrine is she's having the time of her life. Happy witch season. I don't know when this episode will be released, but it's always witch season
It's
somewhere.
always which season somewhere.
But and well, she's like, oh, that was he's like, so your name is Latrine. She's like, oh, we changed it. What was your name before Shithouse?
Which I'm like, that's a beautiful joke to me. Absolutely love it. Mostly because like my name is Katrina, and one time when like we had signed up for like the birthday TGI Friday thing when I was like a kid, it got inputted wrong in like their thing. So when I got like a happy birthday like card, it was like, oh, come in for a free meal, happy birthday, Latrina. And my family thought it was like the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah,
Where
that's still with you. Like, I'm sure you're still Latrina in the group chat.
yeah, where it's just like, oh, you know what? Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
You're like, thanks, TGI Fridays.
Thanks, TGI Friday, for putting that in. And so, like, I really appreciated the latrine joke because I was like, it's me.
I feel represented.
Yes, like this is a joke about for me.
And meanwhile, Robin Hood is doing his classic duel with Little John over the river, except the river is like a shallow, very shallow brook. And he saves Little John because he can't swim.
Yeah.
Uh,
I loved that as a gag. The like because you always get not just like okay this happened in like Prince of Thieves but like so often like in like movies or whatever you have like people who at first like enemies to lovers where it's
yeah.
like they start off like against each other whacked my own mic they're enemies against each other, and then something happens where they save that person's life, and it's kind of like a big epic moment, and it's like, like in Harry Potter where they're like there are things that bind people together, and like shoving your wand up a troll's nose is like one of them or whatever. And then in that instant you become like BFF. So it's like, yeah, it's a trope. It's like it happens all the time. You're expecting it anyway. And so funny for it to be something where it was like that person was not in any danger at all. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that was a gag that I
Uh,
definitely appreciated, where it was like, oh, you know what? Hilarious. This like, you saved me. You saved my life. I'm indebted to you. It's like, bro, stand up. Like,
I mean, it's like work where you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, we're trauma bonding," and the trauma was a difficult email. It was
yeah.
like someone being like mildly annoying, and you're like, "We're trauma bonded."
uh,
Like we were really in the trenches together there, and it's like, no,
Yeah,
that's
we were literally sorting plush toys.
but it lasted for hours.
It was 20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
this scene too was reminded me of the fact that came up repeatedly throughout this movie. It's like how many things that were quotes from this movie that I still say, and some of them I forgot were even quotes from this movie. Like one that I do remember is from this movie is like every time I go past like a toll road or something, like you don't pay no
Yeah.
tolls, we don't eat no rolls, or every time rolls come out of the oven at Thanksgiving, like that line like comes into my head if not out of my mouth.
The
And there's a
the
bunch of them.
the weirdest one for me was I realized that like I will say that like I'm so hippie. Like I'll say it like that, and I
Uh-huh.
did not I couldn't remember why I would say that,
Yeah.
but there was like something about it that like just hit my like echolalia, where like
Uh-huh.
I guess watched that movie one time and then was like the rest of my life, I'm so hippie.
Uh-huh.
And so then when I was rewatching this movie and like the Maid Marian said it like twice, I was like, "Oh my gosh.
That's what it
This
was.
movie got into my psyche."
In the
Like,
one viewing. Like it makes sense for me because I watched it 20 plus times. But
uh,
the one that did strike me that I was like, oh, that's why I say that was like when the kid does like the Home Alone, like screaming and then like screams and just runs away. And he's like, what an unusual child. Which that's not like a weird thing to say, but like the way he's like the cadence that he says it, it's like I'll interact with a kid, like a little kid, and then they'll be running away and I'll just say that like as like a joke.
what
And
an
I
unusual
forgot that it was like I thought it was just my dad that would say that or something, but I forgot it was this movie.
Oh yeah, because the kid screams whenever he
Yeah, he
runs
screams like all
anywhere.
the way running up, and then they have their like interaction, and then like when he runs away, he's also just like goes back to like
Uh,
screaming and like flailing as he runs away, even though he's like now safe.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
Yeah,
love. There's so many movies that I quote all the time because like the quotes are great or iconic. And there are other ones where I'm like, why is that line in there? Or I
yeah,
saw this once and now it's stuck in my head. Like
Yeah.
whenever there was this movie, it was like a student film that somebody made on my college and we like watched and it was bad and it was like a gay thing with these roommates and like maybe one of them was leading one on or something, but at the end the gay roommate is like, no, like this can't happen, or like you were using me or something, and the guy just goes, that's rude. Like that was his response to like rejection, was that's rude. And so whenever I hear rude, I think of that guy
that
like,
line.
that's
Yeah.
rude. But it's like
That's funny.
I can't explain that in whatever
Yeah,
conversation I'm having. There's
it's
like
not a
Yeah.
10
reference that other
steps.
people get. This
Yeah.
obscure like student film that only 50 people saw on that one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what The Great Mouse Detective. I used to
Mm,
love that
great
movie like
movie.
as a kid, hadn't seen it in years, watched it with my children, and then I suddenly realized why like if I like hit my foot into something, I'll say my foot, my only foot. And it's a quote from the
The
bat.
bat. Yeah.
Like the girl stomps on like his foot and he says, my foot, my only foot." And and I'm like, I say that so much and I didn't even like think about it that like that's a weird. Well, I knew that it was funny that I said it because I have like 2 feet, clearly, but I could not for the life of me, if somebody asked what's that from, I would be like, my family says it because we do, like
Yeah.
all of us. because we all have the same brand of neurodivergence. So
Yeah. So many of my family has. And like some are, oh, this is a classic movie. Others are like, this is Sky High. And where she's like, I don't think she really liked my skirt. He say that all the time. Uh,
I feel like we watched American Tail and like Feifel Goes West more than other people did, and so it's like if I'm like, we'll give him the lazy eye, and it's like the what was it,
Jimmy
Sheriff
Stewart cat.
Burps?
Or I mean, not
Oh,
cat, dog. He was
that
a dog.
dog. Yeah, he was like he was called like uh
Wyatt Burp or something.
Wyatt Burp. Yeah. Um, you're on a mousetrap, a giant mousetrap, and we'll sing that to, the song if anybody's seen the movie.
for any of you Fievel fans
Any
out
of you Five
there,
fans.
yeah, if you saw that one episode of Community where they sang that song, or
Uh,
like, show me that movie.
Yeah.
Uh, so in this movie, we also meet Will Scarlett O'Hara.
Yes.
because he's
Uh,
from Georgia.
he's from
Yes.
Georgia. He fights with his knives, but he's still working on the part where he sheathes them because he pantses himself essentially with his own
Yes.
knives. And I'm like, that would happen to me if I took up knife twirling. I famously ripped my
Mhm.
pants while trying to practice fencing in a Dick's Sporting Goods and see if these shoes would be good for fencing. RIP the one pair of American Eagle jeans I had as a teenager.
Oh.
That is a hilarious story.
I was like, they were my brothers, and I couldn't wait till he didn't want them anymore and I could have them. And I wore them a lot. But yeah, that day I was like, oh, these are tennis shoes, but maybe they'd work for fencing. And then, yeah. So you can't lunge in American Eagle jeans.
So you watched William Scarlett O'Hara do that and you were like,
Been there, buddy.
been there. We've
Yeah.
all done that.
Uh, I'm wondering, is that also a reference, him being Scarlett O'Hara, to that Olivia de Havilland from Errol Flynn Robin Hood was in Gone with the
Gone
Wind?
with the Wind. Yeah. I'm that, or they were just like William Scarlett
With
O'Hare.
O'Hara.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be so funny because
Yeah.
there's that little like, oh, just, and I'm from Georgia. Like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, you're probably right. You're right.
I don't know. Because I feel like of the jokes, I'm like, that's such a random pull that we're doing Gone with the Wind here. But
I mean, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and so it is like, wait, why would they randomly do that reference? And it
Yeah.
probably was like to be like, oh, another famous an actress who was part of that movie and this movie, or that movie and Gone with the
Gone with the
Wind.
Wind.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm sure that somebody also appreciated those connections and was like, you know what? This would be a pretty like a funny other little joke for this
Yeah.
moment.
I
So yeah.
think because Will Scarlet in the Robin Hood canon is kind of the character that they never know what to do with.
Mhm.
Like they're always
Yeah.
like in Errol Flynn Robin Hood, they just have him wear red. Like he's the red guy, in
Last name Scarlet, probably because of what he wears.
yeah. And then in Prince of Thieves, he's I almost said Hayden Christensen, but he played JD. Why am I forgetting his name? Christian Slater. He's Christian Slater,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's like angsty, and he's like a lost brother. And but yeah, Will Scarlet is like very different in every movie. I think in the Taron Egerton one, he's like Marion's like cucked boyfriend, who like wants to be political. Yeah. But so okay, but in this one, he's from the South. And he's working on his knife fighting. And they attack the feast that Prince John is having, which is a scene in the Errol Flynn movie. And they break in, and he's like, "Oh, what makes you so different from all these other Robin Hoods?" And he's like, "I have an English accent." Because Kevin Costner famously
Then
struggled.
yeah.
And it adds even more to it that apparently he was
He,
up for that exact role. I just thought it was funny because of like the Kevin Costner wasn't doing an English accent part two. And it was
yeah.
like even funnier that it's like, oh, like if you had cast me,
I would have done an English accent for
I'd have had
you.
no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And Marion is instantly smitten. They're making goo goo eyes under the table. And we get a big fight scene. Uh, and he ones up the sheriff and the sheriff of Rottingham, who's after Marion and John, and he's off to raise the merry men and rebel against Prince John. And they're training. They're doing there's something in I'm trying to remember the bits in the training montage.
Oh, yeah.
Because now I'm like, now it's been a few weeks since I
Yeah,
watched
no,
this
that's how I
movie.
feel too, where I'm like, oh, I know that it's like I had watched it the night before we were going to be recording, so to be nice and fresh in my head, and then but that was 2 weeks ago.
But yeah, it's gone. It's gone. So maybe the jokes weren't that good.
It's gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind. But we get a classic training montage. We get the arrival of
Oh, they crack their tights out of like giant like eggs, like
Yes.
the like
Which
clamshell tight things.
Okay, so when that moment happened where they all had like those giant eggs that they were cracking them open, that was a moment where I was like, okay, if anybody watches this movie in like 2025, are they going to get that reference? Because I don't think that they sell tights in those eggs anymore. And did you, gentlemen, did you know that that's what nylons came in? Were like
little
eggs?
eggs.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
No.
I remember when seeing that in the movie. I remembered like seeing those like in my house because I had like
Yes.
sisters and a mom,
Yeah.
and like the
And I
having tights
never, I
in
definitely
those.
never wore tights. Yeah. So
And
I
every
definitely didn't know that.
I'm like,
But I saw that like my sister had
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
just my sister's tights.
I was like, Cullen, did your grandma not buy you nylons for church every Christmas?
Mm, no, but I do buy them a lot for Halloween.
My grandma sending me nylons for Christmas actually saved me the when I was going to Jeff's wedding. This is like such a side story. But every year my grandma would give us like tights for Christmas. And this one year she accidentally gave me these like black leggings, like black
Mm,
nylons. And I was like, I'm not going to like wear these. These don't really like go with like my clothes or like my outfit. And then when I went to go to Jeff's wedding, I put on the dress that I had bought, not realizing because I had bought it like last minute. It was just the color that I needed it to be of blue.
mm.
And I went to put it on and it was way shorter than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to be trying to like take pictures of like Jeff and his wife in this dress, like bending over. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And his wedding was like 3 days after Christmas. But my grandma had given me those like really like dark black nylons. And I was like, this is perfect. So I put those on so that they save the day. But back to the gag. I'm like, here's where you'll splice it. Um, but yeah, they used to sell nylons, like one of like the features. I think it was Le Egg, like comma EGG was like the brand.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Like,
and so it would come in an egg, so you'd crack the egg and like the nylons would be like rolled up in them. And so like you would buy them like at the store and you'd buy them and they'd be in this little egg. And so like that gag of like their like tights being in a giant egg like was absolute. I'm like, it was hilarious if you were a woman in like the 70s and 80s who would buy your nylons and eggs.
And Cullen making fun of me for claiming to have never worn tights reminded me that actually I do remember. I think the tights that I was purchased by my mom or whoever, because I was in sixth grade. My sixth grade play was Robin Hood, and so we had to buy tights. And I think they even came in that egg, which is why I like remember that
Yeah,
being a thing.
I love that you were like, you joke.
but I
But
did.
now
But I did actually.
but now that you called me on it, you're right.
Yeah.
I did wear tights.
I mean, I'm sure I've been Peter Pan for Halloween as an adult and as a child, and I think I wore tights for both. But I remember people saying, "Oh, are you Robin Hood?" when I was a kid
Mm.
and I was Peter Pan, and I remember being kind of offended because usually my mom made our costumes, which was cooler. But one year she bought me this Peter Pan from the Disney store, which is less cool, but as a kid was cooler.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my mom's handmade VeggieTales costume for me is cooler, but as a kid I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I have the branded with Peter Pan's face on it.
Yes.
Even though to me, I was like, that kind of breaks the immersion because why would he have his own face on
I
his
know. They do that
clothing?
with like the princess dresses where they're like, oh, and I'm gonna put a big like picture of Belle on the dress. I'm like,
It's so that
ruined it.
like the adults that see the kid wearing that can be like, oh, you're
Your
this
Belle,
character. So they don't
yeah,
recognize just the dress. They need the character's face on it too in order to
yeah.
not call the kid by the wrong thing.
But
I was
no,
like,
to
Peter
be
Pan.
oh, I
Go
was
ahead,
gonna say
Katrina.
to be a kid and you got like you're like it's like first store-bought costume where you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, now people are definitely gonna and somebody be like, are you Robin Hood? And you're like,
How
you
dare
idiot.
you? You fools.
I remember that as a
Uh,
kid too, like that confusion. It's like because they do look very similar in like the most like stereotypical kind of like
yeah.
presentation of like, do you have a bow and arrow or do you have a little knife? That's the difference between Peter Pan and
And
Robin
Robin
Hood.
Hood. Yeah. Uh, so I don't know if I've ever fully done Robin Hood for Halloween, but I'll wear tights to be Superman, or I was Link one year. Yeah, so we've all been there. We've all done it. And honestly,
Yeah.
flexible. They're great. Usually I did a 5K. 5K, yeah, Superman last year, and it worked.
Yeah.
Because I'll just get the running leggings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or are they tights? I don't quite.
Yeah.
It's
But not in
all
What? Yeah.
not I don't
What
think
is?
in
Where's
eggs
that line these
anymore.
days?
yeah,
Yeah.
but not in eggs.
Not
Not
in
in the
eggs.
eggs.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
What have we lost?
Some yeah. Some of the other things in that like training montage, I remember they're like doing the archery, and there's like the guy like who can't even get the the arrow out of the quiver. He's like just chasing it like a dog, chasing his tail.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And then like there's different things with like the bow when they're like shooting. Like one guy like the arrow like comes back and hits him in the face. One guy's bow like breaks in half, and then there's like one that's like really goofy with the guy like pulls it back, and then the bow just like like bends like just floppy rubber.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there's something
It's
with
kind
like
of
horses,
Prop comedy.
prop
You gotta
yeah,
comedy.
and it's like
Yeah.
showing like, oh, these we're in trouble because there's also the like the jousting, like the very last little scene of that I think
Yeah.
they're
They're
like jousting
jousting
at
like Coke
the
cans.
cans. Yeah, there's like cans on the heads of the things, but when they hit the dummies, like everyone holding the lance falls off of their horse and not the like dummies that they're like jousting against.
Yeah. Yes. And then this is where then the sheriff goes to try and stop them, and they catapult the sheriff in his own catapult back to the castle. Again, very
Yeah.
something I would do with my Legos,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
he lands in Latrine's room, and she's like,
That was
"Oh,
like a callback to Prince of Thieves too, right?
yeah,
Where it was like using a catapult to like get from one place to another, where it's like that wouldn't work.
no," but they
It's-
catapult Robin in over the walls. Yeah,
yeah.
He'd get over the walls. He wouldn't get up once he was on the other side, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah.
It's like I had a Lord of the Rings video game where you could have if you're Mordor, you could have the catapults throw your own orcs over
Yes.
the walls of
That's
Gondor,
awesome.
but the orcs wouldn't survive. But yeah. So they catapult the sheriff into Latrine's room. She's like, my prayers are answered. It's time. He's like, no, no, no. And you're like, yeah, what is it about this double standard that I'm like, this is hilarious?
Yeah, where it is like, oh, I think it's like the threat of violence like
Yeah.
isn't as present is like
Yes.
why it has that more comedy because it's like when a man is doing it to like a smaller like woman, you're like the threat of violence like
Yeah.
is there that she won't be able to overpower. But when it's like a smaller like woman, you're like,
Yeah.
she's not really going to be able to get away with much like on this man, besides making him extremely uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Which is
still,
still not
it's, yeah,
okay,
I'm
but
like,
yeah,
to be clear, it's still sexual assault. But yeah, but
in real
it's
life.
played for comedy because it's like, oh, this ugly woman. And he's like, ew, not an ugly woman. Like, like I want to force myself on someone, but not an ugly
Ugly
woman.
woman. Yeah.
And it's also the point that like Cullen had brought up before. Like we've been so desensitized to like the violence against this character throughout the movie. Like we've been shown repeatedly, like this is a character you are allowed to cause physical harm to. And also you
Yeah.
know that he's not, like the scene with him upside down on the horse. Like first time his head hits a rock, like that person, real life, dead or like unhealable brain trauma.
Yeah.
But you know, because it's the cartooniness of it, it's like he can be shot with a catapult through the roof. Like he shouldn't be alive right now. Like this woman is not going to harm him any further than
Yeah.
he should already be
Yeah. She's
harmed.
just gonna supremely creep him out,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Which not
which he
okay still in real
deserves.
life. But
Oh,
yeah. Which he doesn't. Well, it's also, I think, and this, I don't know, this can get complicated, but I think like things like gender are constructs. But when people are like, oh, imagine if it was reversed, I'm like, but in real life, there's so much difference in like power dynamics and how you are
Mhm.
taught to feel about your body and how you feel. Like there's so
yeah.
much going on that it doesn't always work where, oh, imagine if this was a man instead of a woman. It's
Yeah.
like, but that's just not how real life happens, you know,
Yeah.
like
It's
that's
like
Yeah.
you flip it around and it's like, okay, yeah, but it is different. Like the analog doesn't work completely the same
yeah. And even though
in the
that's all made
situations.
up, that's just because of like human, it's not biological, that's because of like human
Right.
imposed
Yeah.
sociological stuff. It's still very real to
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
interact and live, which is
Yeah.
Because like
this,
all of the stuff that's built up around all of the stuff that's part of it goes with it when you like
Yeah.
yeah,
switch it over. You can't just do the one thing.
yeah,
Including like what you brought up about like this is a character that we've seen violence be happening to, and he's a horrible person
Yeah.
in it.
yeah,
And so it's like also in those ways, our brains are like fine with it, not just
Yeah.
because it's like
a man and a
a
woman.
man and woman, but
Yeah.
because
It's a
it's
bad
like
man.
it's a bad man
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we want to see get hurt.
Yeah, who's like already been treating like a woman like his property, and even
yeah,
later is gonna like take like escalate that a lot more. So it's
yeah,
like you don't feel bad for him when it gets. I mean, yeah,
yeah. I mean, he's like the devil in those morality plays.
yeah.
Like just like
Yeah.
a annoying loser that we can knock around.
That is something
Yeah.
I forgot about when I rewatched it this time. Remembering like what a loser he is the whole time. Like he's got all this like
Yeah.
power and whatever, but it's like he's just always getting stomped by Robin Hood, which is kind of the case in all the movies. But it's like
No.
Alan Rickman's sheriff is like really cool and like you're legitimately like
Yeah.
scared of him, and he legitimately could be a threat. Whereas this guy really is, yeah, just like a joke the whole time.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm like, and what's the thing where it's not that he has a speech impediment, it's that like he like is always like
He
flipping
flips the
like
words
the
around. Yeah,
words
Yeah.
like around to make himself like, nope, I just undercut how like I was trying to sound important or whatever. Like
Yeah.
subtle things like that where you're like, oh, you're a loser.
Which is very, again, a lot of these Robin Hoods have felt very relevant to real life and current political climates. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes these people they want to be big and scary, but you're like, you're a mean loser.
Yeah.
And the Alan Rickman scenes with Marion at the end of Prince of Thieves are actually very violent and scary. Like
yeah.
that movie has some tone stuff that happens, but you're like, this is it. Like it's a very intense sexual assault depiction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, this definitely lightens that. Before we get there, we meet Rabbi Tuckman, uh,
Yeah.
who is he's selling the wine. He's our Friar Tuck. He asks if they're all gay, and they're like, "Ah, no, no." He's offering them circooncisions.
Yes.
Which they seem all
Hilarious.
about until
Until they find out what they
What it
what it
are.
actually
is.
is.
Yeah. They're like, ooh, oh, I don't know.
I also thought that I was like, in that when this movie came out, like how good it was that it's like Mel Brooks knew his audience,
Yeah.
knew that they all knew that he was a famous Jewish man in Hollywood, and he was saying, "No, I'm going to make these jokes." And I
Yeah.
thought like that
Mhm.
was very clever because it's like the comedy is not there if you are not in on that even like meta joke of it.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
it was an actor that people didn't know, I think that the something of like the comedy and the parody would have been lost. But because he was very famously a Jewish man,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would make the audience more comfortable laughing at the jokes that he was making because they'd be like, okay, he's presenting the jokes to me.
Yeah.
I'm not partaking in like an anti-Semitism by
Yeah.
laughing
Yeah.
at this joke. Because I do think that there's like that part of yourself that you're like checking when a joke happens is you're like, is this punching up or punching down? Like, are we all comfortable? Is everyone
Yeah.
in on this joke? Or like like what is, and so I thought that was very clever that he was the one that was in that part. I
And
mean, he famously does like the cameos like in
yeah.
his movies, but I was like, oh, very very good to be playing this part.
Yeah, it's not that Jewish moneylender that was randomly in La Belle and La Bête all those years
Oh
Yeah,
my
ago.
gosh.
They were like, oh, we just threw him in here for no reason. And
because you all know why he's here, the money lender.
you're
You
like,
all
Right.
get it right. Like,
ooh. And it's the
oh no,
40s and we're in
no,
Europe. Oh, I hate that.
I don't like laughing at this.
Yeah, it's funny because he does Mel Brooks does a character where it was like a shop owner who's like this Jewish guy that's been alive for hundreds of years. He remembers Jesus. He came into the shop and he didn't buy anything. And it's like he's this like kind of like classic like Jewish caricature guy, but it's like it's funnier because he's doing the jokes. So it's not like when you're outside looking in, you can only see these really external surface level things that you're making fun of.
Uh-huh.
But when
Yeah.
you're in the community, you can do jokes that people who are outside the community get. They're like, oh, yeah, they are like that. They do this. But it feels more like it's more insightful. It's more nuanced what you're
Yeah.
making fun of
Mhm.
and what you're noticing. It's like when I do burn books for Mean Girls Day, I like will give my coworkers little burn books or I like make fun of them. It's like
Yeah.
the more I know the coworker, like the funnier
Yeah.
joke I can make.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I can tell when I watch someone who's like making fun of Catholicism or Christianity or even just critiquing it, and I can
Mm.
tell how familiar they actually are
Yeah.
with what they're
Yeah.
critiquing because they'll be like throwing in things from different denominations or groups, or you're like, oh, that's not actually. And then I saw a movie once that was about a youth minister, and it was so funny because it was like everything that was so specific to like, you know, that guy, you like know the kind of guy they're making fun
Yeah.
of, you know, all those kids in that youth group. Like it was like so real, but you can only really come up with it when you've experienced it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I also felt dumb that this last watch was the first time I realized that he was Rabbi Tuckman, supposed to be
Friar
Friar
Tuck.
Tuck. I was like, I'd never made that connection before. And I was like, that is like not even, it's supposed to be obvious. And it was not obvious to me for whatever reason until, this time.
Which I think that like because I haven't seen Prince of Thieves, so I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in Prince of Thieves there was like the friar was like kind of a drunk that was kind of like for
Yeah.
laughs, and which doesn't seem, I'm not familiar with any other like the Robin Hoods where like Friar Tuck is like depicted that way.
I mean,
And
he's always a drunk or not a drunk, but like he loves to eat. He's a man of pleasure.
yes, like a bit of a glutton.
Yes.
And so like it seemed like such a good time to like in a parody to like switch the religion. Like
Yeah.
for that character just to be like, I know you weren't expecting a rabbi. I
Yeah.
feel like I know you weren't expecting a rabbi, but that's like what we're doing, which like then gave it some like interesting stuff to like look at in that direction
Yeah.
and joke about.
And there's also the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves deals so much with like interreligious conflict.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's very fun that in this movie they're just like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
nobody's worried about that. And this is then we get a meeting with the Italians, the up
The
in
mob
the
bosses,
mob
yeah.
bosses. They need money. They're talking to is it Don Giovanni, and he's got Filthy Luca and Dirty Ezio.
Yeah, with Filthy Luca, that was such a fun joke. Like I just because like Filthy Luca, like the like money and so I was like that Filthy Luca, like hilarious
Clever.
joke. Yeah, clever.
Yeah.
And that
Uh,
the guy, the mob boss, having the like cotton swabs in his mouth, being like, when he's like, I can't understand what you're saying. He's like, oh, I just,
Just went to the dentist.
I don't understand what you're saying.
again, it's like it just gives such like we're at a sketch show, like okay, here are these Italian guys now.
Yeah.
And they play in the archery contest to shoot Robin Hood, and it's just like an extended like parody of mafia movies. And we get the archery contest. Well, first Marion goes to warn Robin that he
Yes.
can't attend this archery contest. He's going to be betrayed. And because she gently leaps off the balcony to her horse it's very Buttercup from Princess
Yeah.
Yes.
Bride. I was like, that
Yeah.
has to be like when she just glides down and
Yeah.
then
And Andre the Giant catches her. And
yeah, Broomhilda just like the horse misses, she
dude, that
falls.
that hurt my back when she hit the ground. Like I famously have back problems. And so yeah, her hitting the ground, I was like, "Oh, that's gonna leave a mark for me."
For me,
For me.
sympathetic mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I just threw my back out by watching you do that.
And they go off to Sherwood, and he sings. In my notes I just read boner song.
Yes.
He sings Beautiful Lady, this operatic song,
Huckle Duckle song.
this Huckle Duckle song, behind a cloth, and his sword looks like a huckleduckle, and
Hmm.
all the merry men are all about it. They're
Yeah.
so excited to potentially watch them shadow puppet fuck, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, that I think is what they were all excited about.
And because they're disappointed when they find out it's just a sword.
Yeah.
I do love that she is not that into the song. She's like, okay, great. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're going. We're going. I'm
Yeah.
like, this did it before the Barbie movie,
Yes, it did it before the Barbie movie. Women are like, listen to guys sing, and they're like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, you're into me. Yeah. Now I'm just
Yes.
awkwardly standing here. When is it going to end?
Yeah. That's why you got to do High School Musical Breaking Free, because that's a duet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give
Highly
her a part.
recommend duets. Yes.
Yeah.
I love participation. Don't
Yes.
don't sing to me. Give me a duet.
Yeah. If we learn anything from this episode, Katrina
Yes.
loves
I
participation.
love participation. Never ask me to just sit quietly in a room. I can't physically do it.
Miserable. So she's like, please don't go, but he's like, a contest to prove who's the best. I
I
have to
have to.
go. So we get this archery contest where he is thwarted by the sheriff's men, and he's not that good. He fails, and everyone's booing him. They're throwing lettuce and salad and tomatoes, and he's like, "That's not right." In the script, see, it says I get another
I
shot.
get another shot.
And they're like, "Oh wait, oh yeah." In the script, yeah, okay, he has another shot. Um, and this is an amazing shot, but he's gonna be shot by not Filthy Luca,
The other one
the
without the
other one.
tongue.
Yeah.
Dirty Enzo, what was
Ezio.
Dirty
it?
Ezio, yeah.
We got there eventually.
We got there. And so he is captured. Uh they take word to the village people via
YMCA.
CA.
I'm sorry,
I
I
was
used to
expecting them to make a joke. They kept
I
saying the village
know.
people, and I was
Well,
like, oh, well, this is gonna be that joke.
like obviously we have to make, yeah.
Is it a bunny that they send? I
Oh,
there's like
I'm
a
like I
there's like
said,
a
and I can't
scene where
remember.
they're in line. I remember what animal, but they have to wait in line. It's very Shrek. And they get the message out, and they're gonna go save Robin, but Marion agrees to marry the sheriff in order to save Robin. So we get this ceremony where he's gonna be hung if she doesn't say yes. And we learn that he has an embarrassing first name. Um,
Of course, because he's a loser.
he's a loser. And but before she can say I do and seal the marriage, they arrive and save Robin. Hilarity ensues
Yeah.
until Marion is snuck away to the castle, and they have to save her.
Yeah, from the jackhammer maniac.
Yeah, because she has this chastity belt and he's trying to jackhammer it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
which,
He's trying to jackhammer it. Yeah.
is a way to make it funny, I
Yes.
guess.
Yeah. I mean, because, like, so in a way, us, the audience, knowing that she has this chastity belt on, provides us with comfort,
Yeah.
Yeah.
knowing that even when he, like, pulls her away, we all know, like, dong, like,
Yeah.
against it. And so, like, we as an audience are like a little comforted. Wherein like the Prince of Thieves, when like she gets taken down, you were saying that
Yeah.
it's like it
Pretty
actually is
scary.
terrifying because you
Yeah.
are like, I don't know how far they're going to get before like how bad things are going to get before she gets to saved. And
Yeah.
so in a way, the chastity belt provides the audience with like a comfort knowing that like he can't get in there, still sexually assaulting her, and it's still,
Yes.
obviously upsetting, but also her being kind of like looking, kind of like
Bored.
bored and
Yeah.
irritated about it. It's like, okay, it's funny. She's getting like, yeah, jackhammered
Yeah.
while he's trying to get this like thing off, and it buys, time for her to be saved. But us as the audience, we don't have to be actually worried for her. So thank you,
Thank you.
Mel,
Thank you,
Mel
Chastity
Brooks.
Belt. Yeah. Because earlier I think his own boner bumps against it and
Yeah,
is
and
like,
it
oh,
like dong, yeah.
which could be a reference to there's Olivia de Havilland said that they were doing so many takes of the kissing scene in Errol Flynn Robin Hood, and he had to take a break because he had an issue in his tights. Um, but this
Rough.
this jackhammer's happening, and they go in for this final battle, and we get this like parody sword fight where it even cuts to like their sword hits the cup of the director through the window. Um, and he is he die when in the fight the key is unleashed. But we also have
Yes.
the sheriff is gonna die unless there's a pill that Latrine can give him, but only if she agrees to be his forever. And he
Yeah.
takes the pill and she pulls him off, pulls him
And he's like, no, I
away.
changed my mind. I changed my mind.
Yeah. Again, it's funny, guys. It's funny.
Yeah. It's so funny.
uh but the key magically lands in her heart-shaped,
Euphemism.
yeah, and it's meant to be. He was the man for her who would sing Marion, Marion. So they're gonna be wed. But oh wait, well, the rabbi's gonna to wed them, Rabbi Tuckman, who's been doing circumcisions in a tent nearby. And
As
the
one does.
as one does, and King Richard comes back and is like, "Oh, as king, I have to take my right and kiss her," and we get a
Yeah.
long kiss. And then uh, they're wed. They keep wanting to. She's like, "I'm ready to go bone," and they keep getting delayed. They're gonna make a Chew the new sheriff. They're like a black sheriff, and they're like, "It worked in Blazing Saddles." And they ride off to the castle, but the key is stuck, and they're gonna have to call the locksmith.
Yeah. Turns out it doesn't work, which leaves the question, what was that the key actually for? And where is the guy who has the right key?
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Maybe her parents didn't want anyone to get in there.
There
Maybe.
is
Yeah,
no key.
there is no
There is no
key.
key.
And his key goes to like a treasure chest that's still in the basement of his castle
Yeah,
that got
Yeah.
carted off.
yeah. The real key is the friends we made along the way. And we get a credit song. I did love this bit. They get a credit song that's like the Marion song, but it's like very 90s, like jazzed up cover, which is very like Everything I Do It For You from
Uh,
Robin Hood, or like in the end of a 90s Disney movie when they like really like jazz up whatever like the
yeah.
big song
They have
was.
like the pop
Yeah.
version of the song sung by I like it like 98 degrees or what, like in Mulan where they have
Yeah,
the
I was
Me through
thinking
your heart.
Mulan too. I don't know why, but I also was like, yeah, 98
Or
degrees.
like Celine Dion, Beauty and the Beast,
Yes.
where it's like, oh, now it's sexy and yeah, dramatic. And I was like, I love that that's such a little, like that's such a specific joke. So that's Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah.
I wrote for my Vibes community theater, uh,
Mhm.
complimentary. Uh,
Compliment.
compliment. Yeah, it's just like
There you go.
because it's like I feel like because I wasn't really laughing, but I was like, you know what? Maybe if this was live, maybe if I
Yeah.
was drunk or high and with my friends in college, I'd be like, this is
Yeah.
hilarious. Because it didn't like offend me or like be like
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, maybe I'm just watching this incorrectly.
Yeah, like without other people in the audience, like also laughing out loud, goofing, having a
Yeah,
good time.
yeah,
Because, yeah, how you consume like a piece of media, like the context of which you like consume it affects how your enjoyment of it. And yeah, like a community theater where you're with a big crowd of people who are you're hearing them laughing. Yeah, the energy is up. And
yeah,
also normally then like the people who are performing have something to play off of.
yeah,
And like I think yeah, like that felt missing from this where it's like they would say something and they'd pause for laughter, but you couldn't hear any laughter because
yeah,
we were watching a movie. And, and so if you're not producing the laughter, but if I was watching it like in theater like when it came
Yeah.
out,
yeah,
then it would have been a totally different experience.
yeah.
For sure.
Usually I ask like, do we root for our protagonist? And I just feel like that's not how you watch this movie. Speaking of watching a movie incorrectly,
Yeah,
you watch it to laugh, to parody, even though I do love his performance.
yeah,
Yeah. And like themes, I'm like, is there a theme to this? There's a song about men in tights and that they're butch, and there's a
yes.
closing rap. Uh,
There
so
was a closing.
there was a closing rap. I'm like, again, I wonder if this could get like a Spamalot treatment and be a musical.
It absolutely could, I think.
Or the producers was a musical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, specifically, I'm like, I don't want a Broadway musical. I want one your local community theater can rent and put
Yep.
on. Yeah.
Yep.
So our big double part question of was that your fantasy? Is that an adventure you want to live out? And did you like the movie? Uh, let's start with Jeff.
All right. I knowing I was going to come on this podcast, I was thinking about it. And it was like, for the most part, I was tempted to say not my fantasy, but I am going to say it is my fantasy for one specific reason that if I could swim like to travel as far as he did and not have to, spend money on like plane tickets and stuff like that, that would be a great world to live in. But outside of that, not my fantasy, but I did, like you said, Cullen, like I wasn't like offended or anything. And I did enjoy generally watching the movie, but I didn't have like as good of a time watching other things that I would be, prefer to watch if I was like in the mood to laugh and have a good time. But you have convinced me that if my local community theater puts on a production of Robin Hood Men in Tights, I'm going to see it. And I know that it's going to be a good time.
It's gonna be good. Katrina.
I was gonna say, like not my fantasy. Mostly I think like Robin Hood as like an aesthetic, I'm very drawn to it. But always the world in which they live in is a terror that I already feel like, in some ways we live where it's
But worse because
like
there's no internet and
yeah, but worse
Yeah.
because there's no internet. Where it is like these big, um, like whatever the organ, whether it's like a monarchy, local government, overbearing
Mm.
church people, like that kind of a thing where your life is so much being like controlled and you're being like very much like taxed within your limits or you're like we can barely pay our bills, we don't have health care, we don't listen. I'm like
Mm.
this the reason why
Our
like Robin Hood
sexuality is being
are,
policed by
yes.
this metal chastity belt. Yeah.
Yes. Like the one of the reasons why Robin Hood as like a concept gets like reworked and is so prone to getting like reworked and what we were talking about with like the intellectual property of it people like it because it lends itself to being like an underdog story and about
Yeah.
like we might not be able to totally like tear down the establishment, but it's beautiful like knowing people who are like fighting against it, fighting for the common person.
Yeah.
And so it very much is like, no, it's not my fantasy, and I would like to not be living in a world where
Yeah.
where I feel it so viscerally when I'm watching it. Uh,
The world
and
of Robin
so
Hood only works because having Robin Hood in it is the fantasy for those people in the world, but you have to have like a terrible world that you want rescuing from by one charismatic person, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
It has to be that
like
bad. It's like, so no, I'll pass on that terrible world. If we could just have like a normal world where we don't need a Robin Hood,
yeah.
that would be my fantasy.
Because like it seriously, I'm like the memes write themselves right now when it's like thinking about like the sheriff of Rottingham and what hench person that would be, the like goofy idiot gross hench person who loves couches. Like who could
I mean, like, there's like five people you could be
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about right now.
they're really good. And so it's like it really is like, oh, the memes write themselves. And so yeah, it's like not my fantasy purely because yeah, it's like it's
Because it's
it's
your
ter
reality.
Too
because
close to
yeah,
reality.
it's too close to reality.
Yeah.
But it always is like, oh, aesthetics wise, oh, I'm like I love it. I like there's something about like the kind of like medieval like
Yeah.
the romanticization. I'm there's a word I'm thinking of.
Romanticization.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna borrow that. Pretend said the word.
Yeah.
That goes into like thinking about the like Middle Ages, and I know like I had I think it was like a ninth grade history teacher at one point who was like, people only love the Middle Ages because they like to imagine themselves as royalty, but think about what your position is right now. That's what it would be, but medieval times. And so,
Yeah.
like, even thinking about that though, I still am like, oh, like there's something, I don't know, that feels like very Hobbiton, but I'm still
Yeah.
romanticizing it. I'm still making it when it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
In
I'd be covered in dirt, digging potatoes out of the ground every single day, slopping like the pigs and
in
being attacked by gross men.
two-thirds of us
It's
would probably be dead from a
Yeah.
preventable
oh
illness.
yeah, I'm like, but for the sake of modern medicine, I survived childbirth. So I'm like very aware that I'm like, I wouldn't be alive right now. Like
Yeah.
my body's not built to be alive.
Yeah. One of my favorite icebreakers is how would you die in 1409?
Yeah.
Mine
That's
is
amazing.
agricultural accident. That's how I would have gone.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
very
gonna steal
certain
that.
I come from peasants. Yeah. Please
I
use
Love
I
it.
was
it.
like, not a fencing accident.
No. Yeah, I maybe I'm, but I just
Yeah.
feel like being Irish, the odds are I was a peasant. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm
Yeah.
like statistically, we didn't even
Mm.
have that many rich royalty around.
Yeah, because I'm like, no, I would like farming, I would just be like out farming and
Yeah.
I would probably, go into labor out in a field and then die because again, I am not good at bearing children, and that was like one of the main things that women were supposed to be doing, and that
Yeah.
man, like,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
You're
even when
either
I
that or you're a nun rewriting plays.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you hope, like, oh, please let me be in a family that was like well enough off that I would have gotten like a good enough education before being sent like to a nunnery. And
Yeah.
then I could like live out my life writing plays. But even then, yeah, you have to be like a certain level like up to be a nun writing
Yeah.
plays. And so yeah, man, that was a really long-winded way of saying like not my
No.
fantasy. Even when I try to romanticize like what it would be like, it's like
Still
No.
no.
still no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not my fantasy because this wasn't I didn't super love this movie. I could appreciate it, but I was like, maybe I'm watching it wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe sometimes comedy just doesn't age as well.
Yeah.
And then for like, if I'd want to live it out, I would love to be in a tights wearing bandit gang. Why
Yes.
not? But yeah, it is a pretty. But this version of the Middle Ages, I'm doing musical numbers.
Yeah.
There's religious tolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a decent time.
Yeah.
Not the worst version of the Middle Ages that we've seen on
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, even on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Geoff and Katrina, hey, thank you so much for coming on.
You
Thank
are
you. Yeah,
always
it's always fun.
welcome. We love coming on your podcast.
We love having you. We had so much fun. Do you have any? I was gonna say, do you have anything you want to plug? But no, I usually I'd be like, tell us about your podcast at the beginning. But
Oh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
returning guests.
Yeah.
But tell us about your show.
Yeah, because I'm like, we're the fairy. Nope. But I biffed it.
Like
We're-
the sheriff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a loser. Like,
What was it? Whatever.
we-
Major. Yeah.
major loser.
Camp Rock.
Oh man. Yeah, so we are the Fairy Tellers podcast and we retell folk tales and usually talk about the cultures that produce those tales. Sometimes we're just retelling tales for the fun and the heck of it. One of our most recent episodes that we did, it's titled something along the lines of Eat the Rich or Turn Them into Worms.
Yes.
Where I took several different stories that are from around the world of people that hated rich people, and so they were the bad guys who got their comeuppance in these stories. And so we weren't really talking like that in depth on that episode about the culture that produced those stories, so much as just hating
funny
rich
those stories
people
were.
is very human. Yeah, and how
Yes.
funny those stories were. So yeah, some of our episodes are, I think, a little more like academic than others, but they always include a retelling of a tale where we try to keep things fun and lighthearted. That's our vibe.
Survive. It's a great show. We'll link them down below. I'm a longtime fan and listener, so please check them out. And you can find us on Instagram and sort of TikTok at Not My Fantasy Pod. And you can follow me at Cullen Ever After and on Instagram. And please like this video, smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Like Marion and Robin were trying to do this whole movie. Huckle Duckle smash it. Yeah. Hit that bell notification so you know when we post new content. So you'll know when Hannah's released from Rottingham. I think we've completed our Robin Hood journey. And so hopefully that is enough for the sheriff to be willing to release her. Follow, like, subscribe. We have new content coming soon. And yeah, comment down below. I was going to do a Huckle Duckle joke, but maybe not in the comments. If you were to pick a movie to Mel Brooks parody, what kind of movie or what specific movie would you want parodied?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Mel Brooks like Fast and the Furious type.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. We'll let his team know. Carry his legacy on. Thank you, everybody. Bye.